boarders, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network and thrilled to be part of the Dice Tower Network as well. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Hyman, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy recovering from the deluge of games, Josh Barboni. How are you doing this fine evening?
I am hot. I'm sweaty. It's very humid. We are at the tail end of we are at the end of our tornado watch. So I guess good in that regard. No tornado has come, so that's a positive.
That is a positive. The deluge of games did not suitably cool you off?
Shoot. It was not. Was it hot? Yeah, it was pretty hot during that time too, huh? No, I think it made me hotter, right? Just made me hotter.
It could have.
The temperature of the earth rose because of Summer Games Fest. Although I guess, I don't know, we'll talk about it later, but Summer Games Fest probably should get the least amount of credit for getting anyone hyped for anything this year.
I'm sure we'll talk about that. We'll get to that. I was going to say, so you have tornadoes. Luckily not specifically where I am in Iowa, but there's been some pretty horrendous flooding in Iowa.
Oh no.
Some northwestern Iowa is pretty significantly, some towns are pretty much completely underwater right now. So
yikes.
We've gotten so much rain. We've had like flash flood warnings and stuff, and the river that runs through my town is very, very high, and some of the lower lying areas, like a couple businesses that are like really close to the river, are a little touch and go. But we've had some really, really bad flooding in other parts of Iowa. It's been pretty ridiculous. So, there are, when you get over to Northwest Iowa and South Dakota and things like that, like the interstate is like closed because like there's water over the interstate. Like, that's how bad it is.
Yeah, it's wild weather.
I know, right? Sure. Well, luckily, there's no global global climate change isn't happening at all. This weather's totally typical and normal. This is exactly how things have always been.
Always. I remember it just like it was 35 years ago. Tornado warnings and crazy flooding and temperatures of 111 degrees in June.
Yeah, this
totally
is par
normal.
for the course. Yeah, par for the course. But
no more winters in New England.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh man. But hey, with see how many other people we can potentially, to have not download our podcast anymore. How are you doing though, sir? It's been about a month since we've last really chatted. So how are things going? How's life, man?
Oh, let's not talk about it.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm here. I'm happy to be here talking with you. That's a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? How's things going with you?
I used to love June. June used to be like one of my favorite months of the year because when I, lived in previous places I've lived, like there was a lot of fun events that happened. It wasn't, work wasn't all that busy. Like it was just, I love June. And now I just despise June. I hate it. I hate it so much. Work is super busy. The weather's gross all of the time. Well, here it's just been raining constantly.
Yeah.
But then hot and humid, like when it hasn't been raining. So when you're outside, you're just like walking through like wetness. It's just nasty. And yeah, it's just been so busy. And it's kind of sad that I'm like really looking forward to getting through the 4th of July, because then things look like they'll slow down for a little bit. But it's just been pretty ridiculous. And it hasn't been bad. It's just been very, very busy. I had my doctoral program does a residency every summer, and we did it last week. So I had class for 3 days in person, which is great. I love getting together with my cohort and getting to talk to people who I typically only see online. So it's nice. And we get along really well. Like I have very strong friendships that have been built from being in this program, but like, it's not like my work stopped, right? Like I wasn't at work, but like all of the things for work still need to get done. So all I did all day today was work, right? Like, so it's like, well, it's Sunday, but I worked all day because I have things tomorrow at work that have to, like, I have students I have to meet with who are coming for orientation and someone had to register them. That was me, so like all those things had to happen though, while on those days I was gone. So it's like, well, I guess I just am moving my work days to different days, even though I was quote unquote on vacation.
Right.
That just means I am, taking vacation and then working on the weekend because that makes sense. But anyway, I know that's I shouldn't gripe because I'm thankful I have a job I enjoy. It's great. I really do love what I do. But sometimes it's just like, goodness gracious, like, is this the best way for us to do these things? But I'm not in charge, so I just do what I'm told. But yeah, it's June. It's fine. July's almost here. What I am looking forward to, though, Josh, is it is almost sweet corn season. So that's very exciting.
Okay, sure.
Sweet corn, getting some corn on the cob right around the corner. Get a couple weeks past the 4th of July usually, or, depending on how wet it's been. I don't know how crops are doing, but, we're getting close to the sweet corn season. I do love sweet corn, so we're getting there. But
nice.
So
Something
with that,
to look forward to.
Yeah, listeners, if there's other things we should be looking forward to this summer, let us know. Like, what are we missing out on? What are we not looking forward to that we're supposed to be? I don't know. Like I said, I was really excited about like Summer Games Fest, like not specifically that show, but just like all of the conferences and all of the gaming things and all of that stuff. Like it was exciting. Again, though, like my annoyance at work because like in the past, it didn't matter if I missed work because I didn't have anything to do and that I could just like watch these things. And now I couldn't so much do that. So I was like watching things way later and stuff. But anyway, it's fine. It's not, I mean, these are like the biggest first world problems ever, right? Like what am I complaining about?
For sure.
So with that, thanks so much for joining us this month, everyone. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, or suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on Twitter or check out all of the awesome stuff posted on the Instagram, also Board with VG. We're proud to be part of the Place and Video Games podcast family, and we encourage you to check out all of the shows like the PSVG podcast, the Nintendo Shack, PSXP. I mean, I think there was a special Xbox show that came back. A whole bunch of things were happening. So you never know when a new show might pop up. So be sure to stay tuned to all of your favorite PSVG podcasts to stay up to date. We're also a member of the Dice Tower Podcast Network. So if you enjoy our conversations about board games and would like to dive deeper into that world, we encourage you to check out the Dice Tower Podcast as well as all the other members of the network. No matter what type of board games you enjoy, there's a podcast on the network that's right for you. So with that, let's go ahead, switch some gears here, talk a little bit about what we've been playing. So Josh, what have you been playing on your TVs, computer monitors, potentially tabletops, but I'm guessing maybe not because I have not been doing that either. But what have you been playing, sir?
No, I have got Lorcana cards, so that is almost tabletop.
That's pretty close. I mean, the fact that you have them is impressive. I haven't even bought the new set yet.
Yeah, and I've pulled an Enchanted. I'm pretty psyched about that.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, still playing Hades 2. I'm I think 60 hours now.
Goodness gracious.
Into Hades 2. When I checked, it's funny because I don't ever close it to go to the Steam page to see how many hours I have unless I have to update the game. So that's where I see like how many hours I have in.
So do you think there's a good chance that an early access game is going to be your game of the year this year?
I think that I have to not use. I think I just can't make it a game of the year. Just because.
I mean, you can't. But if it's your favorite, that's fine.
It's going to be my personal game of the year. I don't know that I'll put it on my. I mean, maybe not. It's early. It's only half.
We're halfway through the year.
Halfway through the year. So
almost. Yeah.
More surprises could come. But man, I can't not talk about Hades 2 if given the opportunity. It's just so good. Yeah. All right. So I'm also playing Minecraft Dungeons again. I'm playing with my son. I think, a lot. I'm enjoying it more now. One, because he's older. Two, because I created a new character, started from scratch, and kind of let him bring his higher level character to the game. So he was a few levels higher than me. He was like 15 levels higher than me. But it made it a little bit more enjoyable for his play level and play style. And it's still a very huge test of my patience. Even my wife's like, why do you play with him if you're going to be like that? Like, I'm trying to teach him how to be a good like co-op gameplay.
Yeah.
It's like I'm always yelling at him because he's leaving the screen and I'm dying. So I'm trying to train him on the ways of co-op gaming, but it's a ton of fun. And we just, yesterday we finished the story, the end of the story. So we beat the game technically,
Mm-hmm.
the main ending, which was a ton of fun. We had a really a good time playing. Really, like if you have kids and they like Minecraft, or even if not, and you're okay with a little hack and slash, it's basically Diablo for kids. Like it's very good. It's very well done. They do a really good job with like the weapons and all the different varieties, and there's so many things to do that kind of mix up like levels and challenges. So I really enjoy it. It's a big surprise hit for me after playing it so much in the past, like scattered about. I wasn't really like, I was like, yeah, it's fun, but now I think I like really enjoy it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty happy with that. I was talking to Guy right before we started recording, and I forgot I had downloaded a bunch of demos that went up on the Steam demo fest or whatever they call it. I didn't put it on here. Test Drive was on there also. Solar
Okay.
Crown. I did not enjoy that,
Okay.
unfortunately. So I did try playing that. When it wasn't crashing, it just was not a very fun gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not going to be for me. I guess I'll just keep waiting for another Forza. Or I still really want to play the Crew Motorfest. That's the new one, right?
I think that's the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, the Forza clone, essentially. So I'm waiting for a good sale on that one or a Game Pass announcement. Um, but speaking of Steam demos, I did play a game that I did enjoy, but I did stop playing because of my audio situation on my computer. And that game is called Wild Bastards. I believe it is a sequel or follow up to Void Bastards. Um, I'm just saying that off of doing zero research on the game, but knowing that the gameplay is very similar. In this, instead of doing the randomized spaceship encounters like in Void Bastards, this is like a Wild West theme. And you have people you take into combat with you. So like think of like the roguelite maps where like Monster Train or something like that, where you go to an area, you do an encounter, you complete it, you go to the next one on the map. So that's what it's like. I think Void Bastards was the same. And you can bring in people you find along the way, and they each have their own skills, and you can swap between them as you're playing. So they have different, like, there's a robot with a shotgun. The first person you have has two handguns. But I really like the style. I think it's all British acting too, so I like the voice acting too. But that's a lot of fun. It's the demo's up on Steam if people are interested in checking it out. And yeah, I'm back in for no reason at all. I'm back into Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm starting over, starting from scratch because I never finished. This is the only Dragon Age I haven't finished. So I started over. I don't know how far I'm going to get between now and November. Because I also downloaded maybe Destiny 2 again and maybe FC 24 and maybe some other games that I might try playing again. But yeah, started playing Dragon Age Inquisition, and I was thinking I put it on casual. I was thinking of like mainlining it just to try to get like through the game, but that's not really how I want to play Dragon Age, I guess. And it became apparent to me like right away. I was doing side quests immediately. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not mainlining this game, so I'm just going to enjoy it. And I kind of forget the how the combat was in this one, and I forget it's really an action RPG versus a traditional RPG.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm enjoying that. It leaves a lot of room for um, uh, exploring and experimenting new like play styles, because you can switch through your characters as you're playing.
Right.
So I'm not just locked into my human rogue that I have. I can go to be soulless and do spells and all that kind of stuff. So so far I'm enjoying it. I don't remember how far I got. I didn't try to load my save state, which I know was an option, but I'm having fun so far. And I did try V Rising. It's not for me.
Okay.
uh, and that's all I've been playing. What about
Yep.
you, sir?
So just real brief,
Oh yeah,
for Wild Bastards, it says it is a spiritual successor
sure.
to the epic strategy game Void Bastards. So not a sequel per se, but the next thing, the thing on the side. Okay, what have I been playing? I have been playing a lot of things for not very long. I got in this mood where I was like just scrolling through my digital library, which is
Huge.
huge.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, I never really tried this game. Let me try this. I never really tried this game. Let me try this. So I have been like tasting a lot of things,
yeah,
but not really committing to much. So as a follow up of things I'm continuing, I did finish Tinykin and got the platinum in that. So Tinykin done, moved on from. Still playing Spirit Hunters Infinite Horde. That's kind of still my workout game. So when I'm on the elliptical, that is kind of the thing I am playing. But with that, then here are kind of just some things that I have, briefly jumped into. Starting with kind of where you were, Dragon Age Inquisition. I had never played actually any of the Dragon Age games before, and after watching the trailer for the upcoming one, I was like, would I like Dragon Age? I don't know. Let me try Inquisition because I have it.
yeah,
So let's give it a whirl. I did not realize. I know, and then obviously in reading more later, that I did not realize that you could like control your other characters or
yeah,
switch to your other character. Like I didn't know that was a thing. But then I also reading, and then some people just don't do that at all. Some people do very much play it just as like, nope, I'm just this one character. I'm just doing this whole thing. I'd completely ignore, the controls of, looking at the overlay of the battlefield, and he's like just ignoring that. So
yeah. So they have like a tactics mode too, where
yep,
you can press select and it will let you kind of control the battle. I don't do that because I like the more fluid combat, but
right.
it is nice that it's there.
Yeah, it's neat that it's there. So I don't really know how I feel about it right now. I'm probably gonna still continue to play it a little bit, but I don't know if I love it or hate it. I don't think I hate it. I don't know if I love it. So it's still installed. So we kind
Sure.
of tasted that a little bit. And, and while I was, hitting Dragon Age, I realized because alphabetically very close, Darksiders Genesis. So
Yeah,
uh, you know, somehow, again, no, I don't know how. I own all of the Darksiders games.
yeah.
I've never played any of them. Well, I that's not true. I briefly played Genesis because I think you got it for us on Xbox, maybe. Yes.
Or I might have got it on PlayStation first. I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
remember.
remember. Yeah. So,
But
but
I have it on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation.
right, like because these games just become parts of services, or like maybe it was a PlayStation Plus game. I don't even remember. Right. But I'm like, well, I have all the other Darksiders games. I didn't really want to play any of those, but I was like, hey, this one's like a twin stick shootery kind of one. So let's download it. Let's play it. And it's fun. Like I don't know, like this game is kind of a
Yeah.
good little time, running around. I do think that it's an interesting, I think it's meant to be played co-op. Obviously, you don't have to,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
but I definitely feel like it's meant to be, and it's kind of neat to be able to switch between the two characters, between War and Strife, like as you're going through. My annoyance of that is they control so drastically differently, which is neat in the sense of like you really can have a really different experience when you're playing between the two, but like getting my mind to switch like what buttons I need to hit to like attack, even like that, and since it's different, like that really has thrown me off when I've had to switch back and forth. And sometimes you're required to, because like War might have like a certain weapon he can use to like hit a button that Strife doesn't have, and so you do have to, sometimes you're forced to switch back and forth between them. And I think that's the only thing that's been a little bit challenging, is wrapping my brain around that. Maybe if I played it more, it wouldn't be an issue. But overall, still enjoying it. Still installed. We'll see how much more I play, but it's been good so far. In addition, I was looking for, during the Ubisoft press conference, or their Ubisoft Forward, I was thinking about all the Ubisoft games I've played, and then I was like, one game I haven't ever played is actually Starlink Battle for Atlas.
Mm.
And who doesn't like a nice little fun, like flying in space shooting stuff game? So I was like, well, I have it, because it's on something. Again, I think it's, maybe this is a PlayStation Plus Extra or something. I don't think I ever bought this game. So I downloaded it. I tried it. It's actually kind of fun. Like, I don't know. It's not the best game ever. You can tell that obviously this was the game that, was both a toys to life, if you would, game, as well as a digital game where you could buy little toys that you could play with and attach to your controller, or you could just buy a digital version and do all this. The number of microtransactions in this game, and the number of currencies is just ridiculous. There's so much like stuff to quote unquote buy and stuff, but honestly, like the flying around shooting stuff, it's pretty fun. So I could see if you did have like younger folks or people who are just really kind of into this loop of really enjoying it. I've played it. I played a couple nights of it. I haven't deleted it yet, so we'll see
There you go.
if I continue to play it. I don't know. I have to do a little bit of research because I was like, well, if I'm going to keep playing this, I'm probably going to play it just so I can, depending on how long it would take to like get a platinum in it. So I have to like do some research there to see if how long that would take and whether it's worth the time. But yeah, so kind of just bopping around in that, and then they PlayStation has been bringing back some more PS2 classics on PS Plus Premium, including Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, which I have played previously, and I actually last time I played it on Vita. But they brought it back with a whole new trophy list. And I do have the platinum from this on Vita, but I was like, hey, let's go ahead, let's try this game, see how it plays, see what it feels like today, playing it on PlayStation 5, new trophy list, all this good stuff. And it's pretty good. Like it really is surprising that, there is some, obviously the screen's a little bit smaller, like it does some things to kind of compensate that you're playing a PS2 game. But this game overall still controls pretty well, like feels pretty good. The story's kind of interesting. It is a relic of its time, just like how it like tells you to like, oh, if you like walk up to the thing and hit circle button, you'll be like, I mean, just how you're getting your instructions about
Yeah.
how to do things like are so blatant, that you know I don't believe that would be done in a game today that way, but it is kind of neat and kind of a, pulls on the nostalgia there a little bit. But I forgot how good these games were and how big of a bummer it is. And we'll talk about this probably more later that, for a long time, PlayStation kind of, other than, we would get an occasional Ratchet and Clank, you know, just really kind of abandoned Sly and Jack and Daxter and, for the
Yeah.
most part, Ratchet and Clank other than the occasional game. Like they really did go away from their mascot games. Maybe that's changing a little bit moving in the future, but like for a long time, that wasn't a thing that they did. And they had a lot of really good ones. So it's really disappointing kind of now that I think about it in retrospect of like, they had some cool things going that they just kind of gave up on. And maybe they didn't sell, right? Maybe, rose colored glasses, the nostalgia is maybe, sh- giving me ideas of grandeur that maybe are not true, right? Maybe nobody,
Yeah.
played anything after, 3 or 4. But yeah, I don't know. I'm having a surprisingly good time with it. It's kind of the thing when I sit down, I almost am most gravitating to the most. But
Nice.
with all of those things very briefly out of the way, the thing I have been definitely playing the most is V Rising. So obviously, Josh, you mentioned it didn't really hit for you. V Rising is a action RPG that has a combat slightly like Diablo, only in the fact that it's like an action RPG, and you kind of have that 3/4 over the head view of everything. But it also has a really deep, robust survival crafting system within it where
That's where I
you
lost
are
me.
a vampire lord who is returned, and you are then having to build a new castle and like drink blood and like do all these things to survive and um go on missions to like learn new spells and do all this stuff. So it's like this nice kind of interesting mix between going out participating in combat, but then also going and like chopping down trees and breaking down rocks to bring
Yeah.
back to build your castle. And so it's this really interesting mix between the two of them. You do are, at least when you start the game, you're in the woods, and when it becomes daytime during this day night cycle, if you are outside, you'll get fried if you're in the sun and you'll die very quickly. So it is kind of this weird dichotomy between um being really like active at night and running around, but then trying to figure out when you need to get home by, or like are you going to just like cut through the woods and try to like just go from shadow to shadow like during the day. I think my biggest, I didn't think I was going to play this for very long, to be honest, because at the beginning everything is so slow. You
Yeah.
move slow, the combat slow, like everything is really 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 slow to start with. But after you get a little bit further in the game, you get the ability to like transform into like a wolf, and then when you're moving, you go obviously go much faster. So like there are things that they do to kind of mitigate my biggest gripes with the game initially. I think my biggest concern with it is this is a grindy game, right? Like you really have to enjoy going out and chopping down trees and hitting, rocks and coming back. And then like, okay, now I built a crafting bench. And now that I've built a crafting bench, I can build this thing. And now that I've
Yeah.
built this thing, I can build this thing. Right. And kind of going through and doing that. And, I have taken a peek just at like people who have, because this just came out on PlayStation 5. It's been on PC for a long time. So I did take a peek at like what other, PC players have done and like what their castles look like and things like that. And I got a long way to go. I
Yeah.
mean, like the things that they're building, they're pretty ridiculous. But I am surprised at how good this overall like controls. The range spells and range combat's a little finicky on a controller. But with how many buttons there are to be typically pressing if you were playing this on PC, I am overall pretty pleased with the translation to controller as far as this goes. So I'm going to keep playing it. I think one thing I found out that I did not know prior to buying the game, which maybe I wish I would have, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for me, is that after a certain number so when you're playing the game, you can play on public servers that are PvP or PvE,
Yeah.
or you can play on a private server. And if you play on a private server, you can have up to four total people playing on that server privately, without a public thing. But apparently they wipe servers after like a certain number of days.
Oh no.
So like all of your progress, everything is just like. But now, granted, it's like 160 hours of playtime. So like,
So
you know, you from what I've read, it's like you basically have done everything in the game you could do at that point,
right.
right? Like there's really nothing else for you to do once you kind of hit that point, and you're probably going to hit the nothing else to do well before that. And some people love that because especially the people on the PvP servers, like when the servers get wiped, like it becomes a race for everyone to get back in, like rebuild their stuff so they can attack each other. Like they really like that's like part and parcel of it, is something they really enjoy, they really look forward to. You can like buy servers that don't get wiped, but I did not totally realize because I'm a console pleb, I don't play
Right.
PC games, like right, I didn't know this was a thing. So that's the only thing that I was like, oh, shoot skis. But it sounds like I will have plenty of time, since I am playing just like on a server by myself, I'll have plenty of time to get through everything I need to if I want
Hmm.
to, before it would be wiped. So, and the reason they do that is just to ensure that like people who play the game for 4 days or 4 hours and then just leave and never come back, like they don't
Right.
want that stuff like clogging up the servers. So
Hey, I
that's
guess that
kind of
makes sense.
yeah. So which yeah, it does make sense. So if you are looking for kind of, something that kind of bridges the gap between, that kind of survival building, game and, an action RPG, I think V Rising is a good option for you. But like I said, those are some things to consider just about that server wiping. It does start pretty slow. It doesn't explain things very well. Like it is really up to you to kind of figure things out or use wikis or things like that online to kind of get things going. Like I didn't know that like, hey, you can build this one thing and I'll create a mist so that if you're around it during the day, like you don't get burned. Like
Oh, nice.
there are things that you can learn kind of
Yeah.
as you're going, but it's really deep. There's a lot going on. Everything matters. Like all the resources, you just gotta hoard everything. So if you're into that and you're looking for a vampire based game that does that, I think V Rising could be a good fit for you. But it's definitely not gonna be for everyone. I'm enjoying my time. Don't know that it's gonna be like a top 10 game, but maybe if I keep playing for another 100 hours, maybe it will be. But yeah, overall, not too bad. But like I said, definitely not going to be for everyone. All right. So that is a little bit of what we have been playing. Josh, look at this, like record time. Like we're 30 minutes in and we're already
Yeah.
moving on.
Cruising.
Cruising. All right. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit about some board game news. First off, the Spiel des Jahres nominees have been unveiled. And this is from the folks over at ICV2. The nominees for the Spiel des Jahres, the German Game of the Year, were unveiled alongside the nominations for the Kennerspiel des Jahres and the Kinderspiel des Jahres. The nominations and recommended titles were announced via YouTube by members of the jury. Nominees for the Spiel des Jahres were as follows: Captain Flip, In the Footsteps of Darwin, and Sky Team. The jury recommended games list includes Harmonies, Pas Nicht, Phantom Inc., Shots It If You Can, Trekking Through History, and Trio. The Kennerspiel des Jahres, which is the enthusiast game of the year, were also announced, and it included the following: Daybreak, the Guild of Merchant Explorers, and Ticket to Ride Legacy:
Whoa.
Legends of the West. The recommended games in this category were Beer Ponier, Botanicus, Forest Shuffle, and Ritual. And then finally, the Kinderspiel des Jahres, so the children's game of the year, featured the following nominees: Großkleiner Edelstein, Die Magischen Schlüssel, and Taco Kitten Pizza Jr. And the 3 games recommended for this category were Fluffy Valley, Lekker Lava, and Die Nadal im Heuhaufen. There we go. And the winners of the awards will be announced in Berlin on July 21st. So, Josh, in the past, when we've talked about the Spiel des Jahres, we've typically skipped the Kinderspiel. So we're not going to talk about the kids' games. But let's go back really briefly here, back to the Spiel des Jahres. Captain Flip, In the Footsteps of Darwin, and Sky Team. Anything that stick out to you? Any game that, I don't know that you've played any of these, but any jumping out to you that seem like they have the upper hand?
I mean, we talked about Sky Team last time, and I was so close to buying it. I was in Barnes and Noble, and it was just sitting right there. But I'm like, it's Barnes and Noble, so it's probably $10 to $15 more expensive than it costs normally. So I didn't buy it. But I almost did. So I am definitely interested. I did take a look at it, to see the gameplay and what it might look like. I wouldn't say so. It didn't appeal to me at face value. Like it kind of just seemed a little busy, and not. I guess I just am not interested in being an air traffic controller. But I mean, there's at some point a game gets enough credit that you might have to just like, I can overlook the theme sometimes. If like enough people are saying it's the best co-op game out there, I should try it. So that's probably why I didn't pick it up then. If it wins the Spiel des Jahres, I'll probably pick it up just because I also have, where is it? The Crew, Quest for Planet 9.
Yeah.
Still haven't played it, but, I got it because of how beloved it is and was. I'm unfamiliar. I mean, Captain Flip sounds right up. It sounds like a dexterity game. Sounds up my alley. I'm not sure. And then the Darwin game, I really want to like play those games.
Right.
I just don't have I feel like maybe it's bad that I assume it's heavy, right, based off of the title, because it might not be.
Yeah, I don't think the In the Footsteps games, I do not believe, are very heavy.
Yeah. And Captain Flip, is that it's just a picture. That's not Bowser, right? No. Captain Flip looks interesting. Not for me, I don't think. Pirate game. Okay, I see it. This is a little dexterity-ish. No, actually, it's not at all. No, I don't think I have an interest in that. So I mean, I guess if I'm going to go with those 3, like Sky Team seems the most promising to me.
Yeah, I think Sky Team definitely has, kind of captured the zeitgeist in board gaming as of late. If you look, and obviously this is not it does not necessarily mean that the highest ranked game is the one that's always going to win, but like In the Footsteps of Darwin on Board Game Geek right now is it's over number like 2,000 something. Captain Flip is number 3,000 something, but Sky Team is like almost in the top 100.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And one of the big reasons that's important is not, like I said, necessarily that, quote unquote better game. I always like it should be the one that wins, but like one of the things to get in the top 100 is just, it usually takes time because you have to have enough people who've played it, who then have rated it in order to kind of push it up those rankings. So the fact that that game is already almost in the top 100 is actually pretty impressive, which really means that a lot of people have played it and a lot of people have liked it. A game that is lower in the rankings, a lot of the people who play it might really like it, but it just means that not enough people have played it yet. So I think that's going to be kind of where I would have to assume that Sky Team kind of has this in the bag. Now, granted, this is a jury voting. This isn't like a popularity contest. It's not like the public is to vote on this, but Sky Team really has had, like I said, just the zeitgeist of the industry for like the last year is kind of one of the games everyone's talking about. We're going to hear it talked about more here in just a minute as far as like awards for last year. I know a lot of people, this was like their game of the year last year. So I think Sky Team, I don't want to say has this handily, but I think I would be surprised if Sky Team does not win this.
Yeah.
So, all right, Josh. So then from the Kennerspiel, the enthusiast games of the year, the Daybreak, the Guild of Merchant Explorers, and Ticket to Ride Legacy of the West, anything there jump out to you?
Well, I mean, you got 2 Matt Leacock games in there.
You do, yeah.
I'm happy to see Ticket to Ride made it in there. I'm surprised to see that. Not that I don't think it deserves to be in there. I don't. It's been a while, right? Pandemic Legacy season one. Did season two even make the nominees? I know season one did.
I don't know if season 2 did. That's a good
Um,
question.
so I think like it says something that maybe this genre isn't like out of people's minds. Like it seems like I know that you were kind of touch and go on it as far as
Yeah.
how much you liked it, but uh, I'm glad it's on there. It makes me want to play mine more since we only played like the intro. And then I'm looking at a video of Daybreak. It looks really cool. It looks busy, but it looks like it has a nice table presence.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I think it looks interesting. It's definitely an eco-centric game with this. I'm surprised they decided to put fictional global warming into a board game based off of nature. Um, but it looks cool. It definitely has some remnants of Pandemic if you look at the way that the game looks.
Yep, it does.
So yeah, I guess don't mess with it if it works. So that's not the saying, and I'm tired. That's what I'll say. In the Guild of Merchant Explorers, I've seen it a bunch. I think it's just another game that just looks um, overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
Uh, but it seems cool. I don't love the art either, but that's just per taste. Like it definitely has its own art style that we've seen in other games, so it's not like new, but it doesn't kind of fit like the art style of games I like. If that makes sense to anybody.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of not Raiders of the Lost Sea kind of art, but similar-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks cool. I keep saying "but" now. I'm gonna say "but" like 100 more times today, unintentionally. What about you? What are your thoughts on these ones? I don't know that I got your actual thoughts on the first.
Yeah, so I'm kind of surprised that Daybreak is in there, but maybe I shouldn't be. Daybreak really seems like one of those games that, um, this is going to sound egotistical, uh, not for me, but just like snobby. Like Daybreak seems like a hobby gamer's game in the sense of, or like a game designer game
Yeah,
that people who design games are super into games really seem to like Daybreak. It is been nominated for a few things. Like I think it was like the American Tabletop Strategy Game of the Year, but it's been nominated for a few like kind of niche things. And I've thought about getting it a couple times because it's not. I mean, it's like $50 on Amazon. But the excuse me, not that Amazon reviews are everything, but it seems like the Amazon ones are like really sketch. Even the like the ones linked directly from the
oh
page,
really?
like the manufacturer's site of like people getting like really damaged boxes, or they open the box and like everything inside's already been opened. Like there's just a lot of like not great. I mean, enough that there's like a warning on the page of like, hey, this has been frequently
Frequently
returned.
returned. Yeah.
Yeah, where you don't see that too often. So when you do, you're like, oh gosh. So I haven't pulled the trigger on it, and that's kind of part of the reason why is that it's a little harder to find. But other than there, and I'm just like, I don't know. But like I said, it is an interesting game. It has I think a really cool table presence. It looks really neat. It seems like there's definitely some things tied to Pandemic there, but definitely some innovation going on as well. So a little surprised to see that one, but I think it's kind of neat that it's there. So happy for that. The Guild of Merchant Explorers though seems like a game that people really like.
Yeah.
That is a game that it does seem that not to the same level that Sky Team has like kind of exploded, but the Guild of Merchant Explorers is something that I've seen a lot of positive buzz about. It is something that's kind of like on my short list of things to pick up. I haven't picked it up yet, but it is something I'm very very interested in. Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West. Obviously, like I said, I had some mixed feelings on the game, but I do feel like I like it less than most people do. I think that Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West might be my Far Cry 5 of board games. Like, that I think it's fine, but everyone's like, no, you hated it. I'm like, no, it was fine, but everyone else loves it. I don't know. Maybe that's true. But that's what I kind of feel like. I really don't know what's going to win from this. I think maybe the Guild of Merchant Explorers is going to win. But I really am going to be curious to see for this one. I don't think there's a clear cut winner, at least for me in this category. So, but Josh, of those, obviously, because you have Ticket to Ride Legacy, right? But you do
Yeah,
not have
yeah.
Daybreaker Guild of Merchant Explorers. Of Daybreak and the Guild of Merchant Explorers. So, of those two, which one are you more interested in?
I'm more interested in Daybreak. Just I think it looks familiar and it looks fun and challenging. So I do like that about that. So that would be the one I think I would pick.
Cool. All right, so hey, there are the nominees for the Spiel des Jahres. We'll talk about the winners next month, obviously, because they will be announced by the time that we record next month. And just as a reminder, like this is a really big deal. Like,
Yeah.
where awards in the United States for games or even video games are like, oh, whatever. Like somebody wins Game of the Year at the Game Awards, whatever. Winning the Spiel des Jahres like it really does translate to significant increase in sales for board games. So this is a big deal to those that win. So even if I'm sometimes surprised by who is nominated, it is a big deal to win it. It does really translate to help the game be successful. So, all right, let's move on from one award that matters a lot to another set of awards that I think do matter to a certain group of people a lot, and that is that the Dice Tower Awards or the nominees for the 2023 Dice Tower Awards have been announced. So the Dice Tower does always kind of work like a year behind. So their 2023 award nominees they just announced, and they will reveal them at their live show at Gen Con. So we'll find out the winners of this in August. But they obviously also have quite a few more awards that they do. And what I will say, Josh, is I realize the sad state of kind of board game news acquisition when the only place I could find a list of the nominees was on a Reddit
On
post.
Reddit.
Yeah, like I couldn't not even the Dice Tower website has it. Like, it's
Yeah.
like
Well, they yeah.
anyway. So let's talk a little bit then about the nominees for the Dice Tower Awards. They have quite a few more categories, so we'll go relatively quickly through this, but I think there's some interesting things here to talk about. So let's start with first best welcoming game, and the nominees are Dice Manor, Fiction, Nar, Robot Quest Arena, and Wandering Towers. Josh, your connection or experience with any of those, any you feel that are stand out as a possibility to win? What are your thoughts on those nominees?
I have no familiarity with any of those games except Dice Manor, and only because they were giving it away for prizes on the Dice Tower Cruise last year, before it came out. So that's the only name that even rings a bell. Robot Quest Arena sounds cool. Nar sounds interesting, but I have no. I have nothing. I feel so out of touch.
um, so I have heard of most of these. The one, oh, excuse me.
Nar looks cool. Viking game.
Yeah, it does look cool. I would agree there. The one for me that stands out is Wandering Towers. I am a sucker for most Capstone games. I enjoy most of Capstone's published works. Most of their games I think are pretty good. So I am leading that direction. I have almost purchased Wandering Towers multiple times, but I've not quite ever pulled the trigger on it. Just because I have enough quote unquote welcoming games. Like I have enough games that I think are kind of at that point or at that level that I already don't get to the table as much as I want to. So I think adding another one to that might not make the most sense. But that for me is kind of the standout of the group. The rest of these, I mean, I think any of these could win, but Wandering Towers for me is the one that seems to be the most standout as far as that goes.
Looks
So,
cool.
yeah. So, all right. So the next one is best artwork, and this one is kind of, I think, a little interesting, based off of two of the games in here.
Yeah.
But we have Dixit Disney Edition, Kinfire Chronicles, Lorcana, Septima, and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies.
Yeah.
You have two Disney entries in here, which is, I think, a little interesting. But Josh, anything standing out here for you as far as things that you think might be super beautiful, even if you haven't played them?
Yeah. I mean, like any Red Raven game, you know the art style, right? So if
Yeah.
you like that art style, that's going to be most people's go-to, I think. I love Dixit in general. I haven't really seen. I might pick that up for vacation, the Disney one, because it seems like it'll be nice for family gaming. But I've always loved the art in Dixit, and like Mysterium for that matter. Like very similar art style for cards. But I can't see a world where Lorcana doesn't win. There's just so much variety, and the art is great. The question, I guess, would be how much of the art in Lorcana is original art
Right.
versus how much is repurposed grabs. But I think there's a lot of original art in Lorcana. There's certainly a lot of cards that I have never seen that depicted in the movie it's representing. But it's kind of also like if you put Marvel Snap on for like that, because it's also like repurposing other art used by other people, but they, at least in like Snap, they give artists credit for the art that you're seeing. So Lorcana, I think I'm sure they have. I have of course, I have a box right next to me. But you do still have the artist on the bottom for all the cards, so you are giving credit to those artists. It just, where is that art coming from?
Right.
So that could maybe mix it up a little bit. But I mean, I'm not familiar with Septima or Kinfire Chronicles, but out of the other three, I don't think any of them winning would be bad. I think all three have a place in that category.
I think
it's not as black and white for Lorcana as everything else.
Yeah, I think that for Septima and Kinfire Chronicles, I think the art in those is good. I also think there's some volume art, appreciation being done there, because there's a lot of art in both those games. So I think that is part of it. They're both, pretty heavy games with a lot of cards, a lot of, just general. They have good looks to them. They have unique looks to them. They're not your, quote unquote traditional looking games. And I think honestly that Sleeping Gods Distant Skies would fall in that too. That, Ryan Lockett has a really specific look to the games that he does the art for. So yeah, I think that those each are going to speak to certain people, but I think especially Kinfire Chronicles and Septima, I think there are people who are going to not like that art as well, right? Like things like Lorcana and Dixit Disney Edition. I don't know that for the most part, I don't know that you have people who are like, this is the best art ever, but I also don't know that you're gonna have a lot of people who are like, this is bad or I don't like it. It's pretty safe. But I think, that's where I think Lorcana might have an upper edge here, just because of that, but all of them have unique looks. All of them are kind of doing their thing. I just think that, Lorcana might be the most palatable to the most number of people. So I think that might be why that one takes it. But all right, so let's talk a little bit about most innovative game. And we have Books of Time, Earthborn Rangers, Kutna Hora, Noobs in Space, and the aforementioned Sky Team. Josh, any strong feelings on any of the games for most innovative?
Earthborn Rangers looks really cool. I like the art on that. It does. Oh boy, I'm looking at Kutna Hora now, and that's interesting. It's also hard to find just images for it. Books of Time, not for me. I'm not really a fan of that style of game. I don't know why. So maybe not so much on that. Sorry, I'm like doing this at like, hey, listen live while I react to pictures of games. And then Noobs in Space. Well, I don't love the name.
Yeah,
it looks like it's by the Boop people, maybe, and it has an interesting mechanic. Again, it kind of reminds me of the game where the cards have like it's just a deck of cards. You're playing with numbers on them, and you're or the mind, the game or the mind. So I don't know. I guess as far as innovation goes, maybe between Sky Team and Earthborn Rangers. Earthborn Rangers seems to have like a blend of like RPG to it as well, which seems interesting.
Absolutely. I do think Sky Team is going to take this one. Just not too often that you get like 2-player required game that is asymmetrical and co-op, right? Like
right.
Usually when you have those, you have them being asymmetrical, but it's like PvP, right? Like it's a card game or something else where you're playing against the other player. The fact that this is asymmetrical co-op, 2-player required, and the both players are doing really unique things, I think is pretty not something we see very often. And like I said, just because of how much it's also enjoyed, I think this is probably going to win. But I do think Earthborn Rangers would probably be my second pick as far as what's probably going to take it there. So, all right, let's move on to best reprint. We have Castles of Burgundy, La Granja or La Granja, depending on who you talk to, Ra, Santa's Workshop, and Zuvadis. Personally, I think Castles of Burgundy is going to take this because that reprint is bonkers,
Yeah,
awesome. But Josh, what are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think that like the production on the reprint is insane, so I don't see how it can't win. I think the raw reprint looks good too, but yeah, if you take cost out, there's no reason why Castles of Burgundy shouldn't win.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so let's talk a little bit about best strategy game then, and we have Darwin's Journey, Distilled, Earth, Forest Shuffle, and The White Castle. Josh, best strategy game for last year. What do you think is going to take it?
We know it's going to be Earth. I'm still very interested in Distilled. I really want to try that, but like Dice Tower can't hide its love for Earth. I don't see how it doesn't win anything they nominate it for.
So I would tend to agree with you, but I will say I think the White Castle might sneak in and steal this.
Yeah,
Um, I think the white Earth I think was the like loud hotness game that everyone really enjoyed.
yeah,
But I think over time, I think quietly at the end of the year, more people would probably had the White Castle higher on their list.
okay,
And what's interesting is that if again, this is not perfect math. I think Darwin's Journey is actually like the highest rated of any of the games on this
yeah,
list. But I think what's going to hold Darwin's Journey back, even though the expansion that I'm about to talk about does come in the main game box, I think most people who really love Darwin's Journey play it with an expansion that comes in the box.
hmm,
And I think for some people that's going to kind of immediately exclude it because it's like, oh, it's not the base game, it's the game plus this expansion. That is what people really like.
yeah.
Yeah, I think Earth is kind of like the quote unquote obvious pick, but I do wonder if the White Castle might not sneak in there and snatch this award. So all right. Let's go back to I think probably something we're probably going to agree on again here. But best board game production: Castles of Burgundy, Distilled, Raw, Thunder Road Vendetta, and World Wonders. Do we think it's Castles of Burgundy here?
I mean, I have Thunder Road Vendetta. I think it's a great production, but it's not like a crazy production. It's not it's not like something you haven't seen before.
Right.
I think the Castles of Burgundy, they kind of just went nuts. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, but um, it's so very impressive. So I think it
Yeah.
has to be that.
Yeah, and World Wonders is kind of neat because you have like you're basically building like wonders of the world, but they're basically just like wooden meeples. Like they're not really like as like in depth and intricate things that that we're seeing in the Castles of Burgundy reprint or anything like that. Um, games overall are just for the most part are just look so good these days.
Yeah.
But I do think from a production standpoint, Castles of Burgundy, I feel like pretty much has that in the bag. All right, for best game from a small publisher, we have Distilled, Earthborn Rangers, For Northwood, Lunar Rush, and Raising Robots. I know, obviously, we're gonna start and we're gonna continue to see some repeats on these. Anything here jumping out to you, Josh, as best game from a small publisher?
I mean, I don't know too much about the other ones. I'll just say, like, from the production and what looks like the complexity of Distilled, it looks like it's really a huge win for a small publisher. So I think I would go with Distilled, but I don't know enough about the other ones to maybe Earthborn Rangers. Either of those two, they both are like very impressive looking games for small publishers.
Yeah. I do think that Distilled I am kind of leaning towards, though the people who like Earthbound Rangers really like Earthbound Rangers. But I do think I'm kind of leaning like you towards Distilled. All right, continuing on, because like I said, there's a ton of them. Best
Yeah.
cooperative game. We have Kinfire Chronicles, Sky Team, Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, Tales from the Red Dragon Inn, and Unmatched Tales to Amaze. Josh, does Unmatched stand a chance?
I'm dying to play this. I have this. I have not been able to get it to the table. You know, when we do get to get games, it's Frosthaven. So like, it just hasn't made it. So I feel like it has to be Sky Team based off of everything that we've been hearing. But I get it. I would love to get some Unmatched to the table so I can be like, nope, I was wrong. It's Unmatched. But it's gonna be Sky Team.
Yeah, I do also think it's going to be Sky Team, though there are definitely defenders of all of these games, especially Tales from the Red Dragon Inn and Unmatched. Well, even Campfire Chronicles. I know there are people who didn't like Unmatched that now like Unmatched purely because of this Tales to Amaze. So I do think there's a lot of really good cooperative games from last year, but I do think that Sky Team is, I think any other year, any of these other games could have won, but I think Sky Team's going to take it pretty handily, personally, is what it seems like. Speaking of games that are probably going to be won by, or categories probably won by Sky Team, best two-player game.
Yeah.
We have Lorcana, Match of the Century, Sail, Sky Team, and Star Wars: The Deck Building Game. Any chance that Lorcana takes this, Josh?
No. No. Is Sail the who makes Sail? Who it's not Fort people, it's not Root, right?
No, it's not. It is. I think it's published by All Play.
I'll
Does it
play. Oh
say it on
yeah, it
here?
says
Maybe
right
it says
there.
on
Yeah.
here. I didn't even
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, it says right
Oh,
there.
it
I'll
does.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad Star Wars: The Deck Building Game is on here. I'm glad that that's a thing again. I'm curious about Sail. I've seen it around. It looks cute. It looks interesting, but I think again, I think it has to be Sky Team.
Yeah. Sail is one of those games that, again, the people who like it really like it, but I do think that this is something that Sky Team probably takes pretty handily. Uh, Match of the Century. Look at that. Another capstone game that I have
Yeah.
almost bought multiple times, but I have not. It kind of feels weird to play a board game about chess, but you're not playing chess.
Right.
But that's what you're doing in Match of the Century. But anyway, let's talk about best game from a new designer. We have Apiary, Distilled, Forest Shuffle, Hegemony, and Last Light, which does feel kind of self-indulgent since, Roy Cannaday is the designer of that game, who
Yeah.
works for the Dice Tower. Granted, he is not one of the people who voted, I'm sure, but that just does seem kind of interesting. But anyway, Josh, and I actually have heard that the game is very good. So
I have heard you.
I'm,
Yeah.
yeah. But thoughts here on best game from a new designer, Josh?
I don't think they can give it to Last Light. I mean, they can, but will
They
they?
could.
I feel like Hegemony gets a lot of people talking about
Yes.
Hegemony. I think Apiary looks really cool.
Agreed.
I don't know how it plays. So maybe Hegemony with Last Light like right behind it, or
Yeah,
vice versa.
I do think Hegemony is going to take this. Like I kind of talked about with Sky Team, the fact that that game's almost in the top 100. Hegemony is like number 85 on Board Game Geek. So it is a very heavy game, like 4.2 or something. It's like super heavy. But I think it is definitely something that people love and adore. And the fact that a game that is that heavy and that robust has come from a new designer, I think is going to take it. So I think Hegemony is going to walk away with this one. All right, Josh, get down there. 4 more categories. Best party game: Among Cultists, Blob Party, Fiction, Nekojima, and That's Not a Hat. What do you think, Josh? Who takes best party game?
I mean, this has to be the first year I've felt this disconnected to board games ever. And I'm someone who at least knows of party games because I'm always looking for a way to get people in. I have like no familiarity with these games. Even I know people have talked about That's Not a Hat, probably us. We probably talked about it. I will say Nekojima looks awesome. It looks very cool. It is a game that's right up my alley. It certainly is a dexterity game. So um, maybe I'll go with that one just because it's about cats on posts and you have to hang them.
For
And I could
sure.
probably get people to play that.
Yeah. I think That's Not a Hat is gonna win. It's the game I hear talked about the most often.
Yeah.
I'm also not much of a party game person though, so my exposure to party game people is pretty limited. But that is definitely the game I hear the most about. So I'm just gonna say That's Not a Hat is going to win. All right, best theme in game: Age of Comics, Distilled, Sky Team, The Fox Experiment, and Thunder Road Vendetta. What do you think, Josh, is going to take best theme in game?
I like all the themes here.
They're all
Well,
very
I don't
good.
like the Sky Team theme, but that's a me thing. I can only think of Billy Bob Thornton and Pushington, and I just hate Billy Bob Thornton. So it's just gonna push me away. So I think maybe Fox Experiment would win it for me. I
Uh
think
huh.
that I really do like that theme. And followed by Thunder Road. Those would probably be my top two. But Age of Comics is so cool, but I feel like comic book stuff is it just comes in with a negative stigma to it, so it probably has that going against it.
Yeah, for me, I think it's also the one I've played, so I'm sure I'm biased. I think the Fox Experiment is a really cool theme,
Yeah,
and I think it's done really, really effectively in the game. I think that the rules align very well with the theme and what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. Thunder Road Vendetta, part of me is like, that's a reprint, like that's a game that existed before, you're doing it
yeah.
again, so like I kind of am a little hesitant to go that direction. But also Distilled, I think probably is very, very well. Sky Team is too. I'm just gonna say the Fox Experiment. That's the one I'm gonna pick. I just think they did that really, really well. So all right, best solo game, things that Josh and I do all the time: 20 Strong, For Northwood, Kinfire Delve, Legacy of You, and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. Josh, best solo game, who's gonna win?
No such thing as best solo game. If I had to guess, I would say Sleeping Gods. But yeah, that's all I got. I don't have any positive things for this.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go with Legacy of You. That is definitely, though I am not much of a solo gamer. When I hear people talk about solo games, this is the one I hear them talk about the most. And the reason I feel like they talk about it the most, is that it is designed by Shem Phillips, who did Paladins of the West Kingdom, like all of those
Yeah,
games.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
So I really do think that this is going to be the game that wins as a result of that. Not because just because of like, people love Wayfarers and Raiders and Paladins and all of that good stuff, but he's just a good game designer. And so this definitely seems to be the one I think that, for me, I feel like it's probably gonna be the one that's gonna take it. All right, so that all leads us to Game of the Year, Josh, and the nominees for Game of the Year: Darwin's Journey, Distilled, Earth, Forest Shuffle, Nucleum, which hasn't been nominated for anything else, Sky Team, The White Castle, Thunder Road Vendetta, Ticket to Ride, Rails to the West, and World Wonders. Josh, what do you think? What is going to win Game of the Year?
Earth or Sky Team, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Sky Team. I really do,
Yeah,
which I think is kind of interesting, and not that it shouldn't. Like, picking a mandatory cooperative game, 2-player cooperative game as like Game of the Year. I could see how that might scare some people of like, oh, that's such a like narrow, like restrictive requirement for the game. But when games are 3 or more players, that's actually kind of a narrow requirement too, right? Like, so I yeah, I think Sky Team is gonna win. I would actually, man, maybe it's just because I'm trying to convince myself I need to buy this game. I kind of want the White Castle too, but
yeah.
and I love Earth. Like I've played and really, really enjoy Earth. But yeah, I think Sky Team's gonna take it. I really do. But hey, we'll
Who
know in
knows?
August, and we'll talk about it during our August show,
Yeah.
about who all the winners are. So there are your Dice Tower Award nominees for 2023. All right. So moving on. This next one is just more of a brief point, I guess. Last month we talked about how IGN Entertainment purchased the Gamer Network. And most of our conversation last month when we talked about it was focused on the video game overlap and things like that. But what might be not surprising is that part of that purchase included Dicebreaker, which is a site we regularly used on our podcast. It was a place we regularly got information from and cited for stories. But it now seems that Dicebreaker will be shutting down, or at the very least is going to become a shell of its former self. So this is actually taken from the board game Wire. Um, and it looks like that Dicebreaker has made its editor-in-chief Matt Jarvis and senior staff writer Alex Meehan redundant following 3 weeks of silence on the website in the wake of its parent company's takeover by IGN. In addition to that, head of video Michael Whalen and video producer Liv Kennedy have also confirmed to be made redundant, which means that currently the only permanent staff member left that is not announced like their situation is Maddie Cullen. So realistically, that means that more than likely Dicebreaker is toast and no longer going to exist. If you go to their website, they have a story posted June 10th, but it was a sponsored post. And then the next previous post of that is May 21st. So there's been no posts or updates on Dicebreaker since May 21st. So I think basically that's saying at this point, I don't think Dicebreaker is going to continue. As I mentioned earlier, Josh, it's really, really tough to, find any source of like comprehensive board game news. It's very challenging to do. Dicebreaker was one of the better ones, though even as of late, Dicebreaker really had been very like tabletop RPG and Magic / Roll Count and a focus. Like that was almost all of what they were doing. It was very focused kind of in those areas. Still had quite a bit of board game stuff, but definitely more tabletop RPG, trading card game stuff. What are your thoughts, Josh, knowing that likely Dicebreaker's no more, which means that realistically, there's really not a quote unquote major news site for board game news moving forward. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a bummer, right? It's, I don't. It's kind of befuddling a little bit. Like people don't need board game news anymore,
Right.
or it's just not valued. And coming off of me talking crap about IGN and Kotaku last time we recorded, really sours this for me even a little bit more because it's just, and like after we talked about IGN and Kotaku, I've seen some of them put out some of the worst content I've seen them put out in reporting too. So I don't know what it is. Could I have visited Dicebreaker more? Yeah, for sure. Maybe I should have done that too, but I don't think that's the case. I think that they are just absolving things and trying to, like, that whole comment about making people redundant, like that's designed for a reason. Like,
Right.
why have this person do it when we already have this person doing this? So we're just gonna, absorb them in, and you're gonna be in charge of this thing that you have no idea how it runs or the content it's done. But it's yours now. And I think you see that in a lot of businesses. Someone comes in, they are handed a department or a company or something that they have no experience with. But it's more fiscally responsible for the company to do that, I guess. It's just sad to see, especially when we talk about layoffs and all this. It's essentially just another layoff, and
Yep.
and that stinks.
Yeah.
And I hope they find work somewhere else. But it gives us less places to find news for our hobby that we enjoy. So it's also, bad for us.
Yeah. I mean, Dicebreaker was a site I went to pretty regularly. I mean, as far as I don't go to too many websites regularly at all
Yeah,
anymore.
same.
But Dicebreaker was one of them, right? Like I went to Dicebreaker way more than I went to IGN, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I also think this, reminds me of how niche the board game industry really is and how when I sometimes wonder, like, when we do since our podcast covers both board games and video games, how much quote unquote bigger could we be if we just did video games, or if we like did like one show that was just video games and one game that was just board games? Like, would it be better for us overall? Because the board game hobby is really niche, right? It's something that we happen to both enjoy, board games and video games, but I don't know that's universally true, right? And
Right.
it just is. It, part of me wonders, like, is there a if someone was like, hey, I'm going to take Dicebreaker and I'm going to, make it, but I'm going to do a Patreon, right? I'm going to have three of us. All we're going to do is we're going to do all the board game news you'll ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. Like, do you think that would even be successful, right? Like, do you think there's enough people even to like create a Patreon that would allow a site like Dicebreaker to exist, even on a smaller scale, right? Like, there are places that try to do a Board Game Wire and other places that do things occasionally, and will take random things, but there really isn't anyone who gets like all of the press releases, all of the information, puts it
Yeah.
out. Even like ICV2, that's like an industry site, doesn't even have everything, right? Like, so it is really interesting that there just doesn't seem to be a economical place or an economical way to kind of put all this information together. It does make me wonder, like, what I'm going to do moving forward. Like, when I put, as part of the reason I even reduced our, like, I was like, well, let's try to do these 3 stories a month in a topic.
Yeah.
A, was so that things would be like a little more evergreen since we only record once a month. But B, like, it was getting harder and harder, other than like, hey, this board game has been announced. Cool. Like, which is neat depending on what the board game is, but that's not always the most exciting, enthralling stuff. But it does seem like Dicebreaker shall be no more. So RIP Dicebreaker, though the official word has not come out. So sorry to see you go. I did visit you regularly. So, all right. Josh, I feel like this is going to become a regular like theme for this show potentially. We're going to skip the board game topic. We're just going to move on to our video game
That's
topic,
fine.
this
We
might
can
take
do
us a
that.
while. So we're going to go ahead and skip the board game topic. We're going to go to the video game topic. And rather than doing news, where we kind of cover, like 3 stories or so about what's been going on in the world of video games, we're going to shift things and do things slightly differently today. Obviously, we've gone through a few weeks of video game presentations, conferences, and directs. PlayStation kicked things off like at the end of May, not long after our last episode posted. And then we, had Keeley do his thing, and Xbox did their thing, and Nintendo did their things. And so many little other shows in between with Ubisoft and the PC gaming show and the Cozy Game and so many other things. Day of the Devs, like tons of stuff happened, right? So rather than review each presentation, Josh and I are going to cover our 10 favorite looks, for lack of a better word, that happened through, and it could have been part of any presentation. And a look could be really any trailer, announcement, deep dive from any presentation over the last month. So it could be a world premiere that we didn't know about. It could be a game we knew was coming, but it was like a new like deep dive trailer into it. Maybe Josh he's really excited about like the super expensive new Xbox that's coming out in the fall. So maybe that's one of his looks. I don't know. But we each have 10 things that are kind of our favorite looks from all of the things that happened. And we're going to talk about those. So Josh, I don't know how much time you put into this. I literally have a list of 10 things numbered 10 to 1. So I don't know like what you did.
I have a list. I didn't number them because I didn't want to necessarily rank my favorite, I guess.
Okay,
but
I did. I was like, I'm going to
can.
rank these. I'm going to make myself do it.
Yeah, I'll do it on the fly. I'll rank them while we do it.
Okay. Do you want me to start with my number 10 then, or do you know what your number 10 will be?
Let me start with my number 10.
Okay.
Because I think I know what my number 10 is.
Okay.
I do have to look something up, so I'll look that up while you're going. But my number 10 is a game that is only on here because of the content. I'm not even really excited for it.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
And that is Lego Horizon Adventures.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so why? What is interesting to you about it?
It's Horizon. Zero dot. That's what's interesting to me about it. I know the Lego games are beloved. I just don't share that. I find them frustrating and samey. And I'm not trying to criticize them because I know there's been so much of a change from, we'll say, Lego Indiana Jones to now Lego Star Wars. Skywalker Saga or whatever. I know that they've changed a lot. I didn't follow that path. My wife loves the Harry Potter ones. My son likes the Marvel ones. So will this be the one that gets me back into Lego games? Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to get it because it is Horizon. And it does look like it could be fun to play with my son or even my wife, since it has co-op, to do that. So that could be fun. It could be frustrating playing in co-op as well. So we'll see. But I do want to support a move like this too. That's another reason why it's on my list, because talking about like things going away because there's not support or they didn't do well or whatever. I'm not necessarily even trying to support another Lego Horizon game, but I am trying to support more Horizon content, and hopefully some Horizon Lego sets that come
Yes.
out.
Okay. So
I
here's what
think it
we're gonna
looks
do. If
cute.
so here's what we're gonna do if this is cool with you. This is also on my list, but I'm not gonna tell you where it is. But I'll just talk about it now, and then
Okay,
when we get to it on my list, I'll just say like it
sure.
was here. Okay. I think this might be one that could get you, because I don't know, in watching this trailer multiple times, I don't know if this plays like a typical Lego game. It
Sure.
looks much more like I don't know, like a typical like kind of 3D action platformer, where
Yeah,
I don't know there's the focus on like breaking everything to get a ton of studs. Like it doesn't seem like that's like what they're trying to do here.
sure.
It does really seem like they're trying to like retell the first Horizon game in a
Yeah,
fun, kid-friendly Lego aesthetic. Like that's really what it feels like to me. And that, yeah, you have a base, you can go back and build things and do weird things and put on a hot dog costume and whatever, which is great. But it doesn't seem like it's, as someone who does play a ton of Lego games and really enjoys them, it doesn't seem like it's like break all the things to get all the studs, to get the red bricks or whatever we're using it for that game, to get the billion studs. Maybe it is, but it didn't really seem like that in watching the trailers, that was the focus of what they were doing.
sure.
I do like the fact that they confirmed that like everything in the game is buildable with real Lego bricks. So like you said, I do hope that means we're going to get more actual Horizon Lego sets. The tall neck was a great start,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would love to get more Lego sets. And I do think that this is something we had hypothesized last month when it was kind of rumored that this game existed. I am guessing this is kind of the quote unquote remake of the first Horizon, right? There was rumors of a
Yeah,
remaster of the original Horizon. I'm guessing this is probably then what that game was, but I'm cool with this. Like, I honestly I think this is a really neat way to introduce people who maybe weren't into open world third person action game into the Horizon universe. It was super weird to see a PlayStation Studios logo on a Nintendo direct. Like that was kind of wild to see.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on this coming out on Switch?
My only thoughts is, okay, Sony, you really had to just put it on everything but Xbox. Thanks so much for that.
Yeah.
Um, so joke's on me, I guess. That's fine. I'll just boot up Horizon, zero it on my computer, and play on my Xbox controller. That'll show them. Uh,
Yeah, they'll be so mad that you bought the game again. They'll be so angry.
I already own it. I'm not buying it. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah, I bought
right,
it
but
like 4 times over. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad it's coming to Switch. It makes perfect sense, right? It is surprising to see Sony do that. I think not to slam them, but just not. It's not in that track record, right? Unless I'm forgetting some Sony games that have been on Nintendo.
no, not
They've
really.
been pretty singular, right? And they don't, just like Nintendo, they don't really have to venture out to other consoles if they don't want to. So I do think that it is nice to see that. So I'm glad
Yeah,
for
I mean, I
those
think the only
people.
yeah, I mean, the show is on Switch, but other than that,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really
But the
think
show's on
that.
Xbox as well. So
Well,
and
right,
that was
yeah,
a
but
weird. I don't remember. I don't remember what happened with that, but that was weird.
just in order to keep the license,
Yeah,
Major League
yeah,
Baseball said
yeah.
they'd release it everywhere. But yeah, so I am curious. More than anything, Josh, let me ask you. Okay, Lego Horizon Adventures comes out. It's fun. It's good. What other, since they're the ones doing it now, PlayStation IP would you want to see remade in this if it's good?
In Lego?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, if we're gonna try, maybe we'd stick with like the old ones, and they try to, like you talked about earlier, maybe they try to bring back their OG catalog of PlayStation characters like Crash or Sly or Jack.
Well, Crash is owned by Xbox now, so
That's right. Well, then maybe Xbox will do it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jack and Daxter or Sly Cooper probably lends itself better to Lego.
yeah.
So maybe Sly Cooper. I mean, Uncharted, it seems silly for me to even recommend that, but there is a
No,
Lego Indiana Jones. So
I
uh,
think Uncharted is actually the perfect one
yeah,
because of we're gonna be a little bit removed, right? B, if they are going to ever, the rumors of a reboot continue to be there,
yeah,
but if they're gonna reboot it, what a better way to get people into it than like having like this like easy way to digest like all of the previous games, like if you did all of them, as a
yeah.
collection, like Lego often does, but also like he Nathan Drake is kind of like like his humor fits a Lego game, right?
He's
Like just the
like
way
a
he
Chris
is, the way he
Pratt.
talks is, he's quippy, like he just
Yeah.
fits like the Lego game. So I think Uncharted is actually the perfect one. And I would love to see that. Okay. All right. That was a long time on that one. Maybe we'll have to go a little faster. But like I said, it's on my list too. I'll mention it
Yeah.
when I get there. My number 10 was a game that I had mentioned previously. I was looking forward to, but not as much as this other game. This other game already came out. I've played it. I haven't finished it, but I've played it and enjoyed it. But now I
What
think
are
I
you
might have been
getting
wrong.
at?
And my number 10 is Star Wars Outlaws.
That's your number
Uh,
10?
that's my number 10.
Oh
Josh,
boy.
this is a good list,
Hey,
man.
it's also on my list.
Okay. So Star Wars Outlaws, they're my number 10. And the only reason it's as low as it is I think everything else that's higher on my list was either something I didn't really know about
Okay.
or is just generally like a franchise like I'm more excited about, right?
I'm
And
gonna
because
I'm gonna have to put an honorable, or I'm gonna put a Josh forgot list, because if your number 10 is my number 2, there's gonna be a lot of games you are gonna list now that I
well,
probably
we
forgot.
just have different, preferences. That's okay. Because like I said,
Not
I've never been as a huge Star Wars fan as most other
Yeah,
people,
you're right.
right?
That's true. I forget about
Star Wars,
your weird Star Wars thing.
yeah, like Star Wars is weird, but the fact Ubisoft is doing kind of everything in this game that I kind of would want, like, and actually part of the reason that I went and played Starlink was like the space combat. I was like, well, that looks neat. I
Right.
wonder how like close it is to this, right? Like that just looked like really fun. So I think just kind of being in the Star Wars universe, but not being a Jedi just seems fun to me now.
Yeah.
And transparently, your little sidekick seems neat. I like having fun little creatures that are like
Seems
my
really
sidekicks.
cool.
Yeah, and so I think just really seeing and hearing during the Ubisoft Forward event the explanation of like what this world is, kind of how it operates, how it works, kind of the way all these things are going to interact and go together, kind of the choices and the things that you can do, just made me way more interested in this game than I have been previously. I was pretty positive. I'm like, I'm going to get this game like one way or the
Yeah.
other, right? But I'm definitely more interested in it, and kind of the fact that this is really the first like open world for the most part Star Wars game
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like is really interesting to kind of see what they do here. Massive, who's making it, obviously, I really love the Division. They also did the Avatar game that came out in December, which I liked. Like I think it was good, but this game definitely was impressed me more than I anticipated. I guess I don't know what exactly I was expecting, but it is looking a little bit more up my alley than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, Josh is way higher on your list. Tell me about Star Wars Outlaws.
So I think I actually liked what we saw. It jumped way up because it's not Star Wars The Division, which I
Right,
was really expecting. And it does feel way more like, even it seems even closer to um like Jedi Order in the gameplay style. I like that it has almost like that Nemesis style system for bounties, and how people react when you're in certain places, and how you can affect the environments in the world as you're playing through. Um, I really liked all of that. I liked um, the entering the planet, the load screen, entering planets, which is fine
right,
because it's still cool. There definitely were some like hiccupy things in the video, right? Like I don't think it looks super smooth and polished, which is fine because they're still making it. And I'm sure that trailer, as we've seen many documentaries on games, I'm sure that trailer was cut 6 months ago or
Yep.
just and finalized the day before. So I'm sure it's going to be looking great. But I really did like the sidekick mechanic and how you can use that character in so many different ways.
Yeah.
There seems to be so many different approaches to every situation, which I really enjoy being able to, while on like this what looks still to be like a pretty linear gameplay loop, like being able to decide kind of how the game you can change the game, how you can shape it as you play it. So I really did enjoy that. I thought it looked very promising. So it's very high up on my list.
How do you feel about the in interviews after the fact that I think it was the game director said, that finishing the game will probably take about 30 hours and a completionist run is closer to 50 hours. Does that make you more excited, less excited? What was your reaction to that?
It's perfect. I think it's great. Great amount of time. No notes. 30 hours for a story is good for a $70 game. And 60 hours to complete. That's great. That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think 30 hours sounds wonderful for the size of game, and more for, a little longer for completionist. Great. But yeah, I think being able to do this in 30 hours sounds wonderful. All right. So that's my number 10. Josh's, he spoiled number 2. So way higher up the list.
Yeah, sorry.
But Josh, what is your number 9 then?
All right. I just forgot about a game. So I'm going to have to change my list. I did just number everything. So I'm going to take, all right. So my number 9, and this is just purely, this could have been number 10, is Concord.
Really?
So, and I'm only
Interesting.
basing this off of the promise of what this game could be.
Okay.
I really like the trailer, like a lot. It really got me.
Okay.
Like I'm on board for Concord. I like the humor. Yes, it does feel like Guardians of the Galaxy. I get it, but you know what? What's wrong with Guardians of the Galaxy? Nothing. I love
apparently
Guardians
everything, Josh. Everything is wrong with Guardians of the Galaxy.
I know. And then now I see Eli Roth has to come out and defend Borderlands before it comes out, saying, I know some people are going to draw comparisons with Guardians of the Galaxy. So I get it. I just, as far as I know, we don't have gameplay, right?
No, there was gameplay like in the trailer.
In the trailer, right? So
yep, in the second.
I'm on board. I think it looks like it has the potential for a very rich story. It has that like Cantina feel in it. It has the Star Wars, Firefly, Guardians of the Galaxy feel. That's right up. That's like perfect for me. That's my game. It's only at number 9. It barely made the list, but because I really liked the trailer, and I feel like it has that potential, even like it could become like a Destiny clone, depending on how they play it out. I think it'd be really cool. I really liked it. I liked the humor. It's, I don't know. It hit for me.
So what might be surprising to you, Josh, this isn't on my list at all.
That doesn't surprise me.
It is, though, would be like an honorable mention. I am really interested in this game. And I am just, I am going to buy it. So, but the only reason it didn't make it on to my list is not that I also thought that I was pleasantly surprised by how good the trailer looked. It looked better than I thought it was going to. And maybe I am higher on it because my expectations were so low. I don't know. But I've kind of mentioned that I am pretty, I shouldn't say pretty burnt out. I am, my love for Overwatch is definitely waned significantly. I'm playing, kind of like I talked about last month, way less than I ever have. And I still play it, but I literally only play it like once or twice a week now, where it used to be like almost every night I would play this game. And so I've been looking for kind of this replacement or this other thing I could play, and Concord seemed like it might have it. Like, it is kind of a hero shooter, has neat abilities. The characters seem potentially interesting, because one of the things about Overwatch that's cool is if you're really into it, there is a lot of lore and a lot of things to know about the characters. And the fact that this is doing those like weekly cinematics really has me interested in how effectively that's going to work and how long that's going to last for. But the only drawback to this is the Overwatch people I play with do not have PS5s.
Oh,
And this is PS5 and PC only. And one of them could definitely play on PC. He's a big PC gamer, but like that's kind of my only drawback to this and why I'm not quite maybe as hyped as I would be otherwise. Is this isn't something my whole group could move to. Yeah. But I do
okay.
think, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. I am higher on it than it seems like most people are. Obviously, you're pretty high on it too, but like I know the public reaction to it overall has not been great. But I also didn't think it looked anywhere near that bad. But
I did find the game. I did forget that there is a gameplay thing.
yeah,
I'm watching it now, and I remember watching it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, looks cool. I'm in.
All right, Josh. My number 9 is probably a game that's gonna be way higher up your list. And this is a game that we knew was existed.
Sure.
Um, hadn't been revealed, but we knew existed generally, and is in a series that I have played many of the games in, but not all of the games. But this trailer was really good. It made me really excited to actually play the games that have come recently in the series, so much so that I downloaded them. And that is Doom: The Dark Ages.
Hey,
This trailer was like, if you
awesome.
want to know how to cut a trailer, this
Yeah,
trailer was baller. This trailer was so good. And like we knew that this game was coming generally because it had been leaked, right? Like, and obviously, even if it had been leaked, like the fact that it was working on a new Doom, shocker, right? Like nobody's shocked by that, right?
right.
But kind of the presentation of it, how cool it looked, like, having, basically a Captain America shield, bringing in, having a parry, like all of these just really neat, cool things, like, shoving the skull into the thing and shooting skull
Yeah,
fragments everywhere. Like, I mean, this trailer was just so well done. And then just the very small glimpses of like, oh, you get like a mech thing and you're breathing fire, like just like an expertly crafted trailer to like I said, I loved Doom back in the day. I have like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. I've started them but never really finished either one of them. Watching this was like I gotta download those. I gotta play those again because like it just looked so awesome. Even for someone who, like I said, haven't really been into Doom in a while, but like this game looks amazing. Really excited to play it next year. So my number 9 was Doom: The Dark Ages. Is this on your list, Josh?
it is on my list.
So tell me, what were your thoughts on the trailer?
You said everything. I agree. I agree with you. I think it looks super cool. Um, uh, it's low on my list in the because I was not in on Doom or Doom Eternal. Like it's too frenetic, right? It
Right.
was, and maybe that's because I'm older, or maybe I'm just not into that. But that's not the Doom I remember. Actually, it felt more like playing Unreal Tournament or Quake Arena,
Absolutely. I would agree.
like which I enjoyed at that time, but that's not what I'm looking for now. So I think my only hesitance to put it higher is that I just don't know that I'm going to enjoy it when it comes out. But if we went on presentation alone, yeah, it would be like top 3 if that's what it was, because it was just a great trailer, very well done.
Awesome. Okay. So that was my number 9. Somewhere else on Josh's list, which we'll find out, I guess. Uh, what's your number 8, Josh?
Doom Dark Ages.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, that is on there as well. That's my number 8.
Awesome. So, Josh, my number 8. It's going to be a pretty big change of pace from Doom: The Dark Ages. Okay, so you had mentioned offhandedly before that people didn't seem thrilled with Key 3 in Summer Game Fest
Wow, I was only
conference.
speaking on behalf of me.
That's fine, but I think that aligns with the general sentiment for the most part. Most people, I don't think, were thrilled by that show, and I think overall that show wasn't stellar. Right, there were some neat things there, but I don't think overall that was kind of the um. I don't think it hit like the right notes of when you're having what is in theory this replacement for E3. Granted, E3 never had its own individual press conference, but like when you're having this
Right.
thing like and you have Keeley hyping it up, like it does seem like maybe there should have been something a little bit bigger there. But kind of nestled here in the middle of my list are a few games that came from there that a couple of them are things that we knew about. One of them is something I don't think we did, or at least if we did, I hadn't seen it previously, and that's my game right here. My number 8 game that was something I didn't know about, but I'm super into now, and that is Wander Stop. And part of the reason this game was so interesting to me is, if you remember, this is where you play as the female protagonist, I guess, of the game, and you are like working at a tea shop, and you're talking about like going out and gardening and doing all these things. And then, she's
It's
like,
called
"Oh,
what?
what's that?
What's it called?
Wander Stop."
Stop. Okay. I
Yeah,
mean,
Wander Stop. So you're
you're
going out, you're gardening, doing all these things. She's sitting on a bench, and um, all these things in and of themselves. I don't know that trailer. I think the trailer did an interesting job of kind of like um, giving you some ideas about like what might be going on in the world, but not really kind of explicitly saying anything. So the trailer on its own, I think, was okay or good, even, I would say. But the fact that this is coming from the creator of the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide makes me super interested in like what we're not seeing about this game. And that for me, I think, is the biggest thing. It's just knowing the pedigree of where this game is coming from, having this trailer that introduces you to this kind of sweet, genteel world, which probably actually isn't totally this way, makes me really wondering, like, there's got to be a twist. What is the twist? Like, what else is going on in this place? So I think, if you were not aware of the previous work, I don't know that this trailer would hit for you as much. But for me, I'm really interested to see kind of where this game is going, what is happening next, what is up with this world. Maybe it'll crash and burn. Maybe it won't be great. But like I said, the Stanley Parable and the Beginner's Guide are both pretty interesting games at the very least. So kind of seeing what we're getting next from, God, I forget the name of the guy who made these. But seeing what we're getting next, I think for me is pretty interesting. So, yeah, my number 8 was Wander Stop.
Wander Stop. Okay. Kyle, Wander Stop 8. I'm just keeping track of yours as well. Okay. Cool. My number 7?
Yes.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is my number 7.
Nice. Unsurprisingly, also on my list, but not at number 7. So let's hear about
I
Assassin's
can probably
Creed
guess
Shadows.
where it is on your list.
Oh, I'm curious where you guess.
Do you want me to guess, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead and guess.
I think it's probably number 3 on your list.
Okay.
Don't, yeah, I think it looks great. I'm hesitant to want another Assassin's Creed game just because they're not for me anymore, which is also fine. But I do see a mix of two things that I like. I see a mix of combat that I like. It seems like, I know that there's been criticism apparently about Ghost of Tsushima combat borrowing, but I don't see that. But I do see how they could draw a comparison.
Sure.
And I think that it looks good, and I like that. I like the way the combat looks for the samurai, and yeah, just like the stealth for the ninja really reminds me of old school Assassin's Creed again. And also, it already looks 10 times better than Mirage, so at least I'll have good graphics to play when I play it. So yeah, shots at Mirage. Um, but I think the story is very compelling, and I like how they're playing with the race of the characters and how that's going to play into this time period, and definitely the yin and yang of the characters, like very different, but I'm sure they'll be very similar as well. There looks like there's some like camaraderie in the trailer between them as well, and like some hesitance. I just like the story looks very interesting to me, so I'm in. I'm interested. It looks really cool. They got another great trailer as well. Between that and like Conquered, like the facial animations are just getting wild for what they can capture in UE5. So I'm really interested in this one. Not high enough to put it above 5, but it's got me interested.
What of the two characters, which one is there one you're more interested or excited to play as?
I think I'm probably more interested. I don't know their names, but the girl, I'm probably more interested to play as the ninja. Because there's so few games have gotten that right for me versus like the sword combat, melee, all that kind of stuff. I've played a lot of games that I like that have that. I'm not saying it's not gonna be groundbreaking, but for me, like I'm not a Sekiro guy, but I'm a Tenchu guy, right? So it feels more like back to the kind of that kind of stealthy gameplay I like.
Yeah. I would have thought prior to seeing this that I would have been way in on, is it Naoe? the shinobi. But anyway, I'm the female character. Like I thought I would have
Yeah,
been way more in on that. But after the gameplay trailer at Ubisoft, like playing as the samurai, like he looks so
looks
sweet.
awesome, right?
Like just what did you think about the brutality? Because some people thought the game was like way like were surprised by the level of violence.
It it's I don't think so. It's not.
Okay,
If anything, it's not any more brutal than Assassin's Creed 3. It just looks more realistic. It's the
right,
same brutality.
yeah. Yeah, I was surprised at how much like playing as a samurai looks so cool to me because usually that's
Yeah,
not what I would want to do, right? Like I'm usually not like a let's just like brawl things out. He just looks so much fun to play as, and I do think it's neat that obviously I don't think they said every mission, but many of the missions you can pick like who you want to go,
yeah.
or who you want to take it, and just kind of seeing like how that plays out. I'm really excited about this game. Obviously, I'm a Assassin's Creed like stan, like I love the games. I'm a shoe in to like have it on here. So it is on my list for sure. I am very excited and looking forward to playing this game this fall. But where exactly it is on my list, you'll have to wait to find out. So cool. Anything else, Josh, you want to say about Assassin's Creed Shadows coming November 15th?
No, nothing else. Great
All right.
time.
All right, Josh. So another game that was on my list is a game that had been revealed a while ago. It's an indie game that, you know, uh, when I first say it, people are gonna be like, "That seems like a weird game," but then, like when you think about it, it's like a total perfect game for me. And that's oh crap, I don't even know how to say the name for sure. Neva, um,
Spell it for me.
Neva. So this was also a summer game fest. This is from the studio that did Grease, that game
Oh,
GRIS.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And you know what? You're a person with a dock. Of course I'm in on it, right? Like that's all it really needs to be. Like you don't need more than that. Like I'm obviously going to be in on this thing. I think the game first was revealed like a year ago, like in 2023, I think. And I've been on it the whole time. Like this game just looks so neat to me. Seeing more of the game in action, kind of like progression of what that might look like. Obviously, I feel like I'm going to be very sad at some point in this game.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
this is a game that I just think looks so neat. And I really do. I don't know. Even though I was talking about earlier about like, when I was listing off all the games that I have been playing, one thing I have not been doing, which is super, kind of as part of my super secret plan here is building my list of my 10 favorite games, right? So I've been going back playing a lot of like indie games and things like that, and games that I really enjoy, and I just haven't been talking about them so much. So that's why my playing list is all these like AAA games for the most part. But I really have felt like a strong, you know, my level of commitment to AAA games has definitely I feel like has been decreasing. I'm not as enraptured anymore as I used to be in those. And I'm sure that there are some that are definitely going to get me. But I think of the huge AAA games that have come out this year that I haven't even played yet, even though I bought them. Right, like I haven't played like
Yeah.
Rebirth, and I haven't played even Stellar Blade yet. Right, like I just haven't played them yet. Like they're there, they're downloaded, they're bought. I just have not really felt that compelled to play them. And this is just one more of those games that I was like, man, this just looks like it's doing something cool, something neat, something pretty unique that I'm just not really getting anywhere else. So I'm really looking forward to this game. I think this is a great look at it. It obviously is a smaller, potentially quieter, probably make me sad game. But one I've been kind of excited about for a bit here. I never played Grease, actually. I probably should. But I am interested to play Neva and kind of see how sad I'm going to be. But that's my number 7. So
I mean, they kill a dog in the trailer, so you're going to be pretty sad.
I know. So Josh, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is Fable.
Oh, okay.
It is only this low because we really didn't get a look at Fable. Like we did, but we got the Killzone look. We got is this gameplay? It could be gameplay. It looks similar to gameplay. But we finally got something, right? So we got. I thought it was gonna be hilarious if it was just another character interview from someone, and that was it. But I the more I see, the more it makes sense, right? The more I see the storytelling when they had Richard Ayoade in the first one, and then this guy who I never heard of, who's apparently the biggest person in England in this one.
Right.
They're really going back. They're really focusing on nailing that humor from Fable, and I love the humor from Fable. it's like it's always been one of those games where like you're trying to understand this this British humor in these games. Like it doesn't always land, just like kind of like British comedies. Like, but when it hits, I think it's very funny and charming, and um, everything about this game just every time I see more, I'm just getting happier and happier. I'm glad that they kept the character design for the main character after the internet went nuts, um, because she's not pretty enough, I guess, or something. Um, I like that we got more interactions with her and the characters. I like that we saw her walking around. It definitely had a feel of what gameplay could feel like, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, it really felt like if you've played Hogwarts Legacy, like it kind of
Mm-hmm.
felt like that kind of navigation around the world, like third person ish, like tilted third person view, interacting with people on the streets, people reacting to you as you walk by. Again, we'll see how much of that's gameplay or rendered gameplay. But I thought it was a funny trailer. I thought it like really hit what Fable should feel like, and uh, just I was very pleased with what we saw. Did I want more? Yeah, but do I always want more? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know,
All right. That was your number 6, right?
6.
Cool. So my number 6 is a game I'm going to say that I got. Okay, so when we did our kind of like predictions a little bit for like what we might see this summer, one of the things that
Yeah.
when I was predicting that the PlayStation presentation was going to be like a showcase, I
Hmm.
had kind of dusted off some older games that I thought we might see there. And one of those games I said was Lost Soul Aside. Now, we didn't see Lost Soul Aside, but at Summer Games Fest, we did see another game that I feel like is similar in vein. So I'm going to say tonally, I feel like I got this right, even though this was at the PlayStation. I said it was going to be at the PlayStation event, and it was at Summer Game Fest. And that's Phantom Blade Zero.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I love a good character action game. I really do. Like Bayonetta, Devil May
Yeah.
Cry. These are games I really, really enjoy. So I really thought because of the success that we had seen with Stellar Blade, which is not totally a character action game, kind of like a hybrid between that and like a Souls like. I really thought that they would like PlayStation would double down on that, and we would see like Lost Soul Aside, which is a very has a strong character action presence. I thought we would see that come back and really try to show the hey, we're working on with developers in you know even though we don't have Japan studio anymore, we're still
Right.
in China and Korea and like doing these things, right? So rather than Lost Soul Side though, we got Phantom Blade Zero, which also is kind of hitting all of those same notes. Is really looking at that character action game. You got a dude with a sword who's going in hacking and slashing, doing a whole bunch of really cool things. These are the types of games that just like for me when I see them, I'm like, they just look so fun to play. And I think that's what always hooks me into them. Now, the problem is I'm usually not very good at them. I'm not skilled enough of a gamer to crush at them. But the trailer really made me be like, oh, yeah, okay, this does look really cool. Who knows when this game is ever coming out? But also, it sounds like that the reports from people who actually got to play this at Summer Game Fest, because this was part of their like demo weekend that people were able to actually play the game,
Yeah.
is really promising. That they said that this game definitely has a lot of potential, that they really enjoyed what they played. So the trailer was really cool, kind of made me get really excited about this game as well. Because I think we saw it back in like 2023 for the first
Yeah. It
time.
was a year ago. Was the first
Yeah.
trailer. Yeah.
So seeing this back again was exciting because, like I said, it looks like it's progressing well. And kind of another game like in this stable of like character action games that PlayStation seems to be trying to cultivate. In the gamut of everything from when they the difficulty we had with like Bloodborne all the way up to like the action we'll see with like a Devil May Cry and kind of everything in between. I think Phantom Blade Zero fits well there. What is interesting, and I know that Xbox talked about how they're going to have like their biggest presence ever at Gamescom. They're having their biggest booth, their biggest thing ever, and Nintendo's not at Gamescom and PlayStation's not at Gamescom, but where PlayStation is going to be is at China Joy, with their I
Oh,
think their
sneaky.
biggest booth ever for China Joy with over 30 game demos there. So it looks like
Sneaky
PlayStation really
cheeky
is
son.
like putting a lot of emphasis in that
Yeah.
area. And that apparently is where Lost Soul Aside is going to be shown again, is at China Joy in July. But yeah, anyway, Phantom Blade Zero jumped in. I didn't expect to see it, was very glad I did. So it became my number 6 on my
You don't.
list.
I think it looks really cool. You don't think that this is just another Souls game? You think that you're like it seems just like Elden Ring or Dark Souls.
So from what I heard from people who played it, it's not at all.
Okay.
It is much more character action. It does blend between the two, but it is more on the character action side than it is on the soul side.
Okay. I mean, it
So-
does look really cool, but I just watched it and I'm like, oh, another Souls game.
Yeah. So, like I said,
Okay.
we'll see.
cool.
I love character action games, so we'll see what happens. So,
Yeah.
all right, Josh, what is your number 5?
My number 5. Let's find it on the list. Oh, it's South of Midnight. I really toyed with putting this higher because I just think this is such a charming looking game.
Yeah, agreed.
I love the art style. I think that it's gonna have some awesome music. It really feels like watching a folk tale like play out. And I was a little curious what the combat was gonna be, if there was any, and combat looked great.
Yeah.
It looked like it looked generic-ish, but not in a bad way. I liked pretty quick combat that you see, and then a really cool traversal, like right away. I thought the traversal looked really fun. Cat, time to feed the cat. And I just really, you don't see a lot of games like that. And in fact, we talked about it on the Xbox podcast, and like I think Lost in Random was like the last game that tried to nail this art style, and I don't think many other games, if any, have really tried to get this like stop motion animation in the game itself.
Right.
So I think it looks great. I'm like immediately drawn to the main character. I think she's very charming and interesting. It really kind of was what like honestly, it was probably one of my top 5 moments of the show, but overall, like where it lands for me is just a little bit lower than that. But I'm really excited to see more of the game and to play it.
Yeah, I do think it's like you said, that whole stop motion thing. The number of comments that I saw afterwards of people being like, the frame rate, and I'm like, it's so like, how is it not so obvious? And maybe this is the reason why more studios don't try that, because we're used to our games being so smooth. But I mean, I thought it was very obvious from the whole, like that was like the look they were going
100%.
for. So like people were like, it looks frame. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like it looks like what?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. This was my number 11. So this came on and off the list. Because I thought it looked great. It definitely like just kind of this definitely flirted with being on here. It was on here at points, it bumped off at points, but it ended up at being number 11 for me. But I thought it looked great. I'm really looking forward to playing that. So, my number 5, which is maybe surprising you, Josh, is Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Wow, number 5, huh?
Number 5, and I think that's just because like this was like I was going to get it no matter what, So like I'm not like way more excited about it than I was before, but I'm also like not like worried about it. Like it just very much like middle of like, yep. Still gonna do it. Happy to have my kind of excitement confirmed, but it didn't like raise my expectations dramatically from where it was before. So, all right, sir.
Okay.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Gears E-Day. Yeah. It would have been number 1 if you asked me after recording a podcast with Donnie Reese and Sean Capri. They really explained to me probably why I should be more excited about it than I was. But the potential for what that game could be is just astronomical. If you've played the Gears games like we have, -5, 4 and 5, I guess people just hate. There's just so much story there that can be told, and you see it in this trailer. I've watched it a couple times because I'm trying to get a little bit more out of it. You just see how fragile these characters are at the beginning. And the way that Donnie and Sean talked about it was like, yeah, they just lost everything in like the blink of an eye. Everything is just gone. And they don't even know what a locust looks like. It's wild to even think about, having played all these Gears games, to be able to go back and think they've never seen a Locust. Like, we're so used to them. They don't know who General Ram is yet. Oh my god! Like,
Right.
it's going to be incredible. It can be incredible. They don't know how to close an E hole. It's going.
Yeah.
It could be so good. It could be so good. I think it just. We just see a teaser, right? It's just cinematic trailer. We don't know when the game's coming out. We don't know if they're going to try to change the gameplay style. We
Right.
don't know anything, except we do know Marcus and Dom, and that's all we really need to know, right? So I'm very excited for it. I think it looks trailer. They do great trailers. Mad World, Sting in there, little
Yeah.
chorus, like really hits you.
Absolutely.
Made me think back to the original Gears trailers. So I thought it was fantastic. Like, just a great little like thing to get in that showcase.
Yeah. This is also on my list, higher than
Oh,
this. I'm obviously, as I've talked about, I think Gears of War might be my favorite Xbox franchise. I
yeah.
really love Gears of War. I had paused my playthrough because I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna go back and continue my playthrough now. I'll continue on with 2 here. I was delighted. I do think there was this like sense of like, it had leaked that there or was assumed there was going to be a new Gears of War game here, and everyone
Yeah.
was saying Gears of War 6.
6. Right.
And obviously now we have, this a prequel. I guess I never assumed, or maybe I should have, because I never finished 5, which I guess I didn't realize 5 ends on a cliffhanger. So I guess
Yeah,
because of
I
that,
didn't know that either.
because of that, I didn't realize that like why everyone would just assume it was going to be 6. Because I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it would be like a new Gears of War. So when it was E-Day, like I was not as shocked by that as I think other people seem to be. I'm very curious though about, I think that part of the reason in video games that prequels are hard is, right, like all the cool things that we can do, in theory, we're not gonna be able to do anymore,
Right.
right? Like how do you balance that? And like how do you figure that out? And part of what I'm curious too is like how many, it I am curious when we ever get 6.
Right. Well,
Like
it's based
how
off of
far,
that thing I read. It
how,
doesn't sound like ever.
yeah, like how far down the road is that going to be? Plus, like how many games are they going to try to get? Like, because like obviously, like the original Gears is what, 12 or 14 years after E Day, right? Like it's a lot of time. So if we're going all the way back to E Day, right, we have plenty of games we can sandwich in until we get to Marcus being in prison. Why is he even in prison, right? Like a lot of stuff we could do in there, but also just like what how are we going to make the gameplay and all of those things fit, and be exciting and interesting when in theory we can't do some of the things that we are able to do like in the later games, right? Like, so I'm curious to see how they handle that. But like I said, I'm a big Gears of War fan. Any new Gears of War I'm in for. I'm looking forward to playing it. So yeah, this was, I thought, great. I think the trailer was very good. I think they did a really nice job of um we'll see we'll talk about it more in a minute at the end, but potentially, because I don't want to spoil something if you have it higher on your list. But like I think they did a good job of starting and ending their showcase with like 2 games that I think the trailers
Oh
were
yeah.
very, very good for, or very, very well done. And yeah, Gears of War E-Day, definitely excited about it. A little bit higher on my list though than yours.
Nice.
My number 4 though is a game you've already talked about, Lego Horizon Adventures. The reason
Nice.
it's so high on my list, A, I love Horizon, but B, having a co-op game I can play with my partner, really looking forward to that. So as a result, just really having a game I can look forward to this holiday to play with her, for me just makes me more excited about it. So a little niche, not necessarily anything to do with the game itself, but just something that, or I shouldn't say, something very specific to my situation that makes
Sure.
me more excited about that game. But Josh, what's your number 3? I'm wondering if I'm curious as to what your number 3 is.
It's not the same as yours. My number
Okay.
3 is not even on your list.
How do you know? Oh, okay.
I 100% know because I know you, Kyle. We know each
Okay.
other a little bit.
Okay.
It's Metal Gear Solid Delta.
You're right. It's not on my list at all.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid Delta. We get some gameplay. We get a lot of gameplay. It just looks great. I mean, I love Metal Gear Solid 3. Peace Walker is so good. I can't wait to play it again. I can't wait to play it with this new system and new graphics and I think it looks great. I'm so happy to see it in the Xbox showcase pretty big surprise that that's where it showed up. I think instead
It's
of
been
Games Fest.
it was at an Xbox show before, wasn't it?
I just figured it would be a Games Fest. I was
Oh,
surprised it was in like not. It's not a Microsoft game. In fact,
right.
it's probably more known as a Sony game.
Well, because I
Uh,
think it has shown up at Sony and Xbox now,
yeah,
like and previous to this, and I didn't assume it because you remember Jeff hates Konami because of Kojima, right? So like, why would it be there?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, and something that really gets me excited about it is there's going to be so many people that never experienced this game that can play it. Maybe my favorite Metal Gear Solid game out of all of them. So I'm just really excited, and it's so different from. It's not so different. It's very different from the other Metal Gear games, because even if you watch trailer, like he says it, he's like, "You sent me in here with no weapons," and they're like, "Well, I'm sure you'll figure out how to do it. Like, take care of yourself." And it's not a joke. Like, you get in this game and you have no weapons. You have to get them off bad guys. You wear crocodile hats so people can't see you in the water. You have to change your camo based on the locations you're in, and that's camo you have to find like while you're playing through the game. There's just a lot to it that really I just love. So I was very surprised to see it at the Xbox show. Maybe I shouldn't have been. I don't know, but and I think it looks awesome. So I'm very excited for this game. Definitely high on my list for favoritism for sure.
Well, I am excited that you are excited about that
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
You're right. It
They
is
can't
not.
all be Phantom Blade Zeros or Wander Stops.
They cannot. They cannot. We could only wish.
They
Okay,
could be though. They could all be those.
they could
We
be.
could
They
go
could
for
be.
more indie games.
So my number 3, I can't decide if this is going to be on your list or not. Because we only have 2 games left.
We're running out.
We're
Maybe it'll
running
be on my
out.
Josh Forgot list.
This is, I think, kind of a game that became I think a darling after the Xbox showcase. A lot of
Oh,
people talked about it.
I think I might know what
Um,
you're talking about.
yeah, and that's Clear Obscure Expedition 33.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot to put that on my list.
Yeah, this game looks
It looks
incredible.
awesome.
Yeah, this game looks absolutely incredible. First game from a new French studio called Sandfall Interactive. It looks like we have kind of a JRPG with some real time elements of like time button presses and things like that. So it really kind of looks like we're bringing in a little bit of Persona, bringing in a little bit of other JRPGs into this, and just kind of a really interesting kind of premise to the game. I think the challenge of this game, I think the challenge it's going to have is it showed so well, and yet you have Ben Stark as the voice of the lead, which is great. But I think it showed so well. I worry that it might not be as good as it's showing, which would still be a good game, but that's what kind of my worry about it, right? Like that the trailer was so well done for it that even if it's just not that good, people might be disappointed, even though that would still result in it being a good game, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
think it set itself very high expectations to live up to. Hopefully it can. But as one of the things I said I really wanted from Xbox, and granted, this is this is a third party game. It's going to be multi-platform, but one of the things I said I really wanted was a surprise. This was a surprise. Like, this was not a game that I think really anyone knew about, was aware of. And I think it showed extremely well. And it is coming to Game Pass, which is awesome. So this was, like I said, I wanted a surprise. This was a surprise. So my number 3 was, what is being called for short, just Expedition 33.
Awesome. I love it. Someone said in the chat while we were recording that it reminded them of Shadow Hearts. Did you remember that RPG on the PlayStation 2?
Oh, man.
PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2? Because that game definitely has RPG elements to it. Well, I mean, it is an RPG. You couldn't tell right away in the trailer for Clair Obscura, but it is an RPG.
Oh, okay. Now that I see this, I
Do
remember
you
this
remember
game.
that? It
I
had
did
like
not
the
remember the
wheel.
name
You
of
had to
it.
like nail the timing on the clock or whatever. I
Yep.
loved that game. So I'll be curious if that is even remotely similar to that.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Josh.
Cool.
Top 2. What's your number 2?
Well, my number 2 is Star Wars Outlaws. So
Oh, that's right. We talked about that
we can
already.
skip. We can.
Are we gonna have the same number 1, Josh?
No.
Okay.
We're not gonna have the same number 1.
Okay. So your number 2 is Star Wars Outlaws. My number 2 is Gears of War E-Day.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, Josh, what that is your number one, sir?
My number one is Dragon Age Inquisition gameplay.
Okay.
There's no way that's your number one. I would be
And
shocked.
by Dragon Age Inquisition, you mean Dragon Age Veilguard?
I wrote Inquisition because I'm playing it. Veilguard, sorry.
No, that is not on my list, but I was surprised. I mean, I thought it looked good enough. It made me download Inquisition. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you why it's my number one. Okay. It doesn't necessarily belong in the number one spot. It's my number one because of what we finally saw.
Mm-hmm.
I was so worried about this game, and
after Game of the Year, Mass Effect Andromeda,
and after that trailer, that trailer they showed at Summer Games Fest, no, at Xbox show, Xbox show, that trailer that's trying to be like Red Dragon Inn or Dungeons and Dragons the movie. I was so extra nervous, right? So this is after the Xbox show on June 11th when they premiered the gameplay trailer. I've been so nervous. Again, talking to Donnie and Sean. Sean's like, I'm not worried about the gameplay. I'm worried about the story. And I'm like, okay, the one thing I'm not worried about is the story. I have confidence in them to nail the story. What I don't have confidence in EA to do right now, or BioWare, sorry, is to nail the gameplay. They've messed it up too much for me. So I was so very nervous. And finally seeing the gameplay, finally seeing how how smooth and crisp it looks, how there's it reminded me of so many things about Dragon Age I love. There's even a part where you're trying to go down an alley and there's literally a guy moving a box and you have to wait till he moves out of the way. It's just as part of the gameplay mechanic in walking through the town. Collecting your allies, going through the levels, the combat, and you even start with only the ability to do two things, and then later when they jump forward, you finally see your attack wheel or whatever they're gonna call it has more slots in it, spell slots filled up. I was just so relieved. It was like a weight. Sounds so silly to be talking about a video game like this, but it was like a weight lifted off my chest. I was so nervous. And it's going to be interesting playing it too, because while I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition, I keep drawing these comparisons to Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm like, wow, this feels so clunky. Why can I not? And I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm comparing it to an elite video game that is not 10, 15 years old. So I'll be curious how much they change and adapt in this new Dragon Age, but I was just so relieved to see solid gameplay, a lot of it too, and it looked great. And it looked like November doesn't seem crazy now. That's a great time to let them finish up. So I was very relieved, very happy with what I saw. So it made my number one over Metal Gear.
Over Metal Gear. Well, Josh, you're correct. Dragon Age Veilguard is not my number one.
Sure, I could have guessed.
Because my
Can I guess what your number one is?
Yeah, go for it.
Astrobot.
It is absolutely Astrobot. How could it not be Astrobot? Josh, that game looks so fun.
It does look like a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, that game looks so fun. Literally just hearing the music in that trailer, I was like, I am so in. I am 100% so in on this game. Oh my gosh. I don't really need to say anything else about it. Loved the VR game. Loved the demo on the PlayStation 5. Now getting a full 80 level, they said Astrobot game. I'm in. And I know some of those levels are super short, they're little challenge levels, but still just getting a fully realized Astrobot game. I am so excited for it, because though I like a broody sad dad game as much as the next person, just having a little bright fun sometimes is what I'm looking for. And man, those other Astrobot games are so good, and I just kind of we were talking about before, going back and right now playing Sly, and kind of going back to the era of PlayStation having these mascots that we cared about, and that has just not really happened recently. And seeing that maybe Astrobot's finally going to kind of bring us back to that being a thing that PlayStation does again, I'm so excited by. So all things are pointing that this game is good. All
Yeah.
the previews for it were extremely positive. So I, for one, am super looking forward to early September. And PlayStation Studios, I think, Xbox kind of has this like, they have the gift and the curse of like, we know a lot of the things that they're working on because they've been announcing things. They have so many studios, and that's fine. Like, that's totally cool. Like, I think a lot of their games showed really, really well at theirs. Like, having them be like, hey, like, even though Astrobot had been rumored, like we hadn't seen it, they show it for the first time in May, coming out in September. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm so looking forward to playing this game and just having a good time bopping around in the worlds, listen to that jamming music. Astrobot definitely my number one. And I don't want to say by a considerable margin, but since I know when it's coming out and it's not that far away, I'm really stoked about playing this game. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's my number one.
Nice.
All right, Josh. So we covered all of our things. Any recaps, any final things you want to say about the summer?
I got a couple honorable mentions. I'll give
Yeah.
you Astrobot's on there. It was on my honorable mention list. So is Super Mario Party Jamboree, Legend of Zelda Staff of Wisdom. Is that what it's called?
Or what? Yeah, whatever.
Whatever
Yeah,
it is, the new Zelda one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that looked really cool as well. So those are on my honorable mentions. There was something else that I'm forgetting that I didn't put on in time. I couldn't remember if it was a Nintendo game or not, though.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
that new Zelda game does look really interesting.
Yeah, it's a new attempt, like a new way to play the game. Like,
yeah,
it just seems like innovative enough that I'll be into it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it looks really neat, really interesting. Like, I think it's kind of cool. Speaking of which, did you see? I'm assuming you saw the Great Dooku Tree like Lego set.
Yeah, that's way overpriced.
I know it's super, but it is like two like things,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like, that's
too
kind of
much
neat.
money.
It is very expensive, but Legos just are so expensive these days.
Yeah, but look at the Deku Tree, and then look at the space shuttle that they just put out for Lego. Have you seen that?
I did, yeah.
That's next on my list, and that's cheaper than the Deku Tree.
Well, you got to pay Nintendo's royalties here.
Yeah, well, that X-Men, the Blackbird I have, $85 for what should be a $40 set.
Yeah, Echoes of Wisdom.
Echoes of Wisdom. There you go.
Echoes of Wisdom. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else for me that was like a big highlight, or I think like I said, I kind of named my my honorable mentions, like were Concord and Songs of the Deep. No, that's the other game. South of Midnight. There we go.
South of Midnight.
Yeah. Overall, though, there was a lot of shows this summer, and we'll move towards wrapping up here quick. Satisfied, not satisfied? What do you think overall? Looking at kind of, do you miss E3? Did we make the biggest mistake ever? Like, what are your thoughts?
Listen, again, I'll be a critic if I have to. The Summer Games Fest made me miss E3. It was not good, and last year's was good, as I remember. Well, it was fine. It was long last year, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like this one. It was just, and it's not because it didn't have big AAA games. That's not why, but it didn't. Also,
it didn't. Yeah.
It was just kind of, I don't know. I'm sure there are people who were thrilled. Very few of those games were games that I was interested in. Very few. So that's all for that. I'm really glad. I really liked the Xbox presentation. I'm really glad I talked to Sean. If anyone's interested, if you haven't watched the Xbox one, or if you wanna, you can hop on to play some video games on YouTube or the podcast feed. And there's a 4-hour recap with me and Donnie and Sean Capri.
I listened to the whole thing.
It was a long night, but they really got me. Like, those guys are very excited. It's nice, like when I talk to you, with how excited you are about PlayStation stuff, it gets me excited about PlayStation stuff. Talking to Sean and Donnie about Xbox really kind of got me happier again. And I was so down on Xbox going into that conference. And Indiana Jones, that's also my only because it feels like a fun movie to watch.
It does.
I don't know that I'm gonna like the gameplay, but that's okay. I played through Riddick. I can play a game first person. I really liked Riddick. But yeah, if you're interested and want to hear some genuine Xbox fans talk about the showcase, check out that podcast, even in portions. If you do it in half an hour portions, you can listen 8 times. That's a whole like a week and a half of work. Yeah, otherwise I felt good. I liked the PlayStation Showcase just fine. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was great. But again, a lot of those games didn't cater to me. But what I did like, I liked what I saw. Nintendo's was a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
The Mario Brothership game,
Yeah.
that looks super cool. So there's a lot to be excited about again. Here we
There's a
are.
lot to be excited about. There's a lot. Yeah, I do think that, most people were down on on Keeley's show on Summer Game Fest. And I think that the games that were quote unquote bigger are definitely for a specific audience, right? Like, I think there are some people who'd be really excited about Monster Hunter Wilds and people who'd be really
Sure.
excited about Metaphor Refantasio. Like, I think they had some interesting things there. But I think that, they're, though granted Monster Hunter is huge, but
Yeah.
it just, for the most part, not a ton of games that really talk to us. Like, I enjoy Persona. Like, I like Persona. I am not totally sure if I've been on Metaphor yet or not. But I appreciated some of the small games that Jeff had. The problem I get into though with that show is that, like, that show was way too long for the number of games it had, right? Like, or I should say for the scope of games it had. You cannot have 2-hour shows when you don't really have some like
An
really
hour of
major,
ads.
yeah, like, and yeah, the ads and just like, and when you're like, I obviously, like, I had multiple indie games from his show on my list, but like, you can't, it's really hard to like show like 5 indie games, go to like a 3-minute ad break and come back and show 3 indie games, right? Like, that's just a really challenging thing to message effectively. And I think the big thing is very clear that, like, yeah, but PlayStation had a couple games there, Nintendo had nothing, Xbox had nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the Xbox showed why. Like, they don't need to, right? They don't need to give him anything.
Right.
Nintendo doesn't need to give him anything. Even at the end of the life cycle of the Switch, like, Nintendo's like, no, like, we're going to keep our games for us, and it looks great. And PlayStation's just not giving anything to anyone.
Right.
They're just not saying anything. So,
Yeah.
who knows what the heck they're doing. So, yeah.
I tell you what they are doing, giving up on PSVR 2.
They are giving up on PSVR 2. Well, we could have, we knew that the day they released it.
Well,
so
finally we can say it.
Yeah. I will say, and I know I'm going to be in the minority in this, I was a little disappointed. And it makes sense. I get why they did it. I was a little bummed that the Xbox show started with Call of Duty.
You're not the only one. I think a lot of people were.
I get it.
But they have to go for those people.
I know.
To get them in.
And that's why I said, like, I get it. Like,
yeah.
As a quote unquote hardcore gamer or whatever, like, I know that is not a message for me. That is a message for the 100 million people who play Call of Duty, have come play it on Xbox, right? Like, I was just I was like, man, like, here's a chance to do something really cool and unique, or like something very, like, I don't know, like
they could have ended with it because it was going to go right into that,
right?
Anyways, so they should have just ended with Call of Duty.
Yeah. And like I said, the Doom trailer then right after that was amazing. Ending with, the Gears of War was amazing. Like, those are great. And I'm just not, and part of it could be just, I'm just not as into Call of Duty as I used to be, right? Like, I don't really think I'm going to play this Call of Duty either. I haven't played Call of Duty really much at all in the last few years. Nothing here made me super excited about it. I even watched like the whole like developer thing afterwards. I'm still
too,
like, omnidirectional movement and giant, like, none of that.
I liked how you could change your HUD now to have like just that in the middle, like it was like the map right in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I feel the same way. I wasn't like, it's still Call of Duty, right? I mean, I love the story of Black Ops, so I am excited to play the campaign, but the multiplayer stuff, hard pass.
This is probably gonna be really dumb, but the thing was that turned me off of the single player campaign for that.
Bill Clinton.
What's that?
Bill Clinton.
Oh, no. It was literally the part when he like drove the motorcycle, like, and jumped off the car. So like with the motor, I'm like, oh my God. Like, that was the part I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I just don't, I don't know. Like,
but it really happens, Kyle.
I'm getting like old man yelling at clouds in my old age. I don't know. But yeah, that was, like I said, that was the only thing that really disappointed me. And like I said, I get why they did it. They had to do it in most ways, but I just, that was the one thing I was like, man, here's what we're going to do. So I will say though, I did agree with, and granted, Sean totally entitled to his opinion. I agreed with you about that Diablo cinematic.
Yeah.
I would have much rather discovered that like in game.
While you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But
knowing
he
that you're just
also,
gonna watch it
yeah,
again, right? And like I said, I get both sides of that. And again, different gamers want different things. But man, that thing was brutal.
right.
Holy goodness, was
Right.
that trailer?
I
Oh,
think it was great, but like
it was very
he
good.
even he admitted, not admitted to it. He acknowledged later, like even he doesn't get the story while he's playing
Yeah.
Diablo, and that's fine because some people do play it that way. But there's a lot of story in Diablo if you are looking for it, just like Destiny. So it's there. You just have to stop bashing like Beast for a minute and read that tome, and just click A and keep moving.
Yeah. But yeah, that trailer, whew, man, they can make really good horror
They're so
bits.
good at what they
Oh
do.
man. So yeah. But what I will say is, though, very conspicuous that there was no Overwatch 2 during that whole presentation.
And we got World of Warcraft, but no Overwatch.
And
So
we got
that's
World
pretty
of,
funny.
So anyway, so hey, summer's done. We'll see what happens the rest of the year. But I do think,
Summer
overall,
just started 2 days ago. What do you mean summer's done?
well, summer over as far as like the summer game announcement season is over. I think we obviously have a pretty good picture of where the rest of the year's headed.
Yeah.
Just general temperature. Excited for the rest of the year. What are you thinking? There's a lot of games I'm excited about for the rest of the year. So
I'm still excited. Here's the thing. You talked about it earlier too. I don't know how much time I'm putting into AAA games
yeah,
or games in general. Like I am excited, but I'm also like anxious about this backlog of games. Like
yeah,
yes, we want to and almost have to talk about these games and play them. Yeah, but like I deleted Stellar Blade when I was on my PlayStation because I was like I was installing something else. I'm like, I need the space. I think I've played as much of Stellar Blade as I'm going to, but I enjoyed what I played.
right.
I was like, I still want to play more. I'm like, but I'm not gonna do it, am I? So I can obviously reinstall it, but that's the only thing that I'm just like I obviously will play the ones that are important to me, but I don't want to miss out on the big ones that are like a game I wouldn't normally play. So like when you do download a game or get it, when one of us gets a game for and we share those, like I'm always gonna try a game that you get because I'd hate to miss out on something, but there's just so much out there. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, good
it's
problem to have, I guess, but I would argue maybe not a good problem to have.
yeah, it's gonna be a really full fall. I know that there's probably maybe not as many like big hitters as there were last year, but I think just
Yeah.
for me personally, like we have NCAA football coming in July, and then you have um both Star Wars and something else is right at the end of August that I'm blanking on, and then Astrobots in September, and then you have I'm missing things, but Assassin's Creed is in November, and who know? I mean, Xbox still has like Avowed and Indiana Jones, and like all these things that are fall supposedly still. Like it's going to be a really packed end of the year, and I do think we're gonna have to be pretty choosy about what we play and how much time we have to play. But I think that maybe last year had some really, really big high hitters. I think this year has a lot of just good games. If
August,
like,
you were thinking Cat Quest 3. That's what you
oh,
forgot.
Cat Quest City is early August. There's something else at the end of August that
You got
Trials
Conquered,
of Mana, the new
you
or
got
Visions of Mana, the new Mana
Visions of
game. 'Cause I like
Mana,
the previous one.
Madden 25, Conquered, Dustborn, Black Myth, Wukong.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Those are all at the end of the month.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the Visions of Mana game. That's what I was thinking of. So yeah, but that and Star Wars Outlaws, I think, are like a day apart. But yeah, Cat Quest 3 even. Goodness gracious. That's
One day
early
apart,
August.
Visions of Mana and Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just not gonna be enough time. So it's gonna have to be choosy. We'll have to talk soon about what games we're getting. So
Yes, we will have to find it.
but hey, listeners, what are you still excited for the rest of the year? Let us know. What are the things that we're not thinking about that we should be? But with that, Josh, it's been almost 2.5 hours. Let's wrap this show up. So let's move on to our recommendations for a well-rounded life. Obviously, we're a gaming podcast, but we want to give you one other thing we're currently into that's helping us live that well-rounded life. Josh, what is your suggestions for the listeners this month?
Well, speaking of Star Wars, I'm just going to go ahead and recommend Acolyte because we need more TV shows like this.
Okay, Josh, now I have not watched this obviously, but all I've heard is negative things about this show. Is it what's going on here?
Yeah, you have heard negative things because it has a female lead and it's Star Wars.
Is that
And
literally all it is?
unfortunately, I would say for you, because you're not a huge Star Wars fan, all you
Mm-hmm.
have to do is find the lowest scoring Star Wars projects from fans, and those ones you'll like, I bet.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Because it's such a toxic fan base. It's just embarrassing sometimes to be a fan of Star Wars. I'm not saying it's groundbreaking, okay? It's not gonna break down TV barriers. Like, I've never seen a show like this before. Um, it's just, I think it is a very interesting story. It's something that hasn't been told before in mainstream Star Wars. Um, I don't even want to tell you too much about it. Whether you want spoilers or not, I don't want to spoil for anyone listening, but um, it's a good story, and I'm trying to decide if the main actress is a really good actress, or if she's playing a character almost as if it's a bad, poorly acted character, um, or if she is not great. But it's hard to say without revealing a spoiler of why I think that. Um, it deals with something that you might not be familiar with in Star Wars, which is witches. Um, it
Oh, yeah, I'm
has
not.
it has some very interesting lore that they're exploring, and it's a very diverse cast, which is something I've always appreciated about when Star Wars does it right. Um, it's too early to say like how I feel about the series as a whole because it's still weekly episodes, but I believe as we're talking, 4 or 5 episodes are out. I'm not sure if there's only 6 in the season or not. I didn't really look into how many episodes there are, but I really like it. I think it's great Star Wars storytelling. It doesn't even feel like Star Wars sometimes, but if there's a Jedi, it's going to be reminding you that it's Star Wars. So you are dealing with, um, I believe, the High Republic. I'm sure people can correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely some hot takes on the Jedi. Maybe they're not these awesome people like you always thought they were. So there's some things that are going on there that they play with. I really like it. So I would say if you're curious, check out first 2 episodes. You don't have to do like the whole 3, 4, 5 episode thing, but first 2 episodes will tell you if you like it. But I would recommend it if you're interested in Star Wars, or even slightly interested in Star Wars.
Because the lead played Rue in the
Yeah,
Hunger Games, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
don't think she's a bad actress, but if you watch it, I think you'll know what I mean.
okay. Because I think wasn't she like in Bodies, 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 and like The Hate You Give
Yes.
as well, or something like that? Yeah. So okay. I'll put it on the list. We'll see. I've actually really struggled with watching TV lately. It's been really rough. Like
Same.
I just yeah. So henceforth, I don't have a movie or a television show or anything like that to recommend. But what I do have is just take a minute, take an inventory. One thing I think that I've mentioned recently that I've really cut down my time on social media, and I think it's been really helpful. So I think just take some time and just think about like, hey, are the things I'm spending time on or putting energy to places that maybe just I should be focusing my energy elsewhere. And I think kind of one of the easiest ways to do this, or one of the easiest ways I found to do this, but granted, no expert. I'm not trying to give advice here because I know sometimes that's annoying to people. But like, just the idea of like, okay, what do I want to be or what do I want to become? Now, with that person, do the thing I'm thinking about, right? Like, if I want to be someone who like works out, would that person do X, Y, Z? So like that's kind of always how I always try to think about like when I'm deciding about what should I do. Like, okay, well, who do I want to be? Would that person do this thing or not? And so just kind of framing things that way and just taking an inventory of like, are you putting energy and time into things that maybe aren't helping you get to that place? So and like I said, I think just doing small things like that from time to time can be super helpful, and really help ensure that you're kind of putting your energies in to the things that you care the most about. So just take a break, take an inventory, see how you feel about the things that you're doing, because like I said, it can be helpful. So with that, Josh, what do you say we wrap this show up?
Let's do it. Thank you for joining us, everyone. In addition to finding us on Twitter and Instagram, X and Instagram, I started on the wrong one, at Board with VG. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Board with VG. So feel free to give us a 5-star rating over there. Also, if you're in the mood to communicate and you don't want to use that social media stuff, you can just send us an email at boardwithvg@gmail.com. Not you, the person listening who wants to increase our podcasts with AI. We don't need that, so you can stop emailing us, please. We tag our stuff with hashtag boardwithvg, so please feel free to use that hashtag as well on all your social media so we can see what you're up to. And whatever podcast service you're listening to us on, we encourage you to give us a stellar Blade rating. That is, whether you're downloading us from the Dice Tower Network feed or our very own standalone Board with Video Games feed. You can find me on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. Good luck. Steam at Why So Serious. That's SIRRIUS. Kyle, where can people find you?
So you can find me at all the usual places, for now at least. Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.